Joey,
If you
Once you
want
see
to
them, you're gonna
is your
click on.
building gonna be ready?
Yeah.
Is your building gonna be ready?
Yeah, and you'll see them.
I've been guaranteed it will be.
All right, now click on.
What's
click on
that?
window.
I've been guaranteed it will be.
Up here, the zoning
I've been
board right there,
promised
the
that
red
it
one,
will.
the YouTube one.
Okay,
They've been
Right there now.
painting it and
Yep.
stuff, and it's starting to
Okay,
look
now
really
go back to
good
your
down
meeting.
there.
So you can see them.
Are they gonna straighten out the windows?
They're replacing the
No,
broken.
where's the broadcast webinar?
They're not going to replace all the windows, but they're replacing the broken.
Go down there where your Zoom button.
It's not what we want, but it's what we're getting, and that's fine.
Okay.
We're
so I'm
good.
gonna go.
I have
All right,
34
Lisa.
vendors, so that's a lot.
They should have painted that a little darker color because the light color shows every defect.
Yeah, it does. It does. I would have liked the outside to be darker, but I wanted the inside to be that light so it would look a lot lighter in there and not so dismal.
Oh, I agree with the inside. It's the outside. You walk up and you see
I agree.
every wave in that siding.
I thought it was going to be a different color, but miscommunication. So we'll take what we can
hey,
get.
Ellie, we can't see you.
The roof looks good though.
Does it? They didn't do it yet.
Yeah, they
Did they
did.
do it? I haven't been down there in a few days.
Hi, Matt.
I walked down on Sunday and there was a new roof.
Was there? Well,
Yeah.
they were going to scrape it and then paint it.
It's
So they
done.
maybe they did that.
It looks good.
Like I said, I haven't been down in a few days, so.
There's Ellie. Did anybody hear from PJ? Lisa, did you ever hear from PJ?
Lisa can't hear you right now.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Did anybody hear from PJ? He didn't answer all anyway, certainly.
I feel like I haven't seen you guys in a year. It's been a while.
Uh-huh.
How are you, Scott?
Doing well. Surviving.
All right. Is
Are
it
you,
6:30? Yes.
Ramping up for spring and summer work?
We never slowed down.
Oh, good.
We've been busy all
good.
through and yes, it is ramping up, although prices are an issue. As
Oh, yeah.
if anyone knows, and the big one now is what happened in Texas has affected the price and availability of chemicals.
Oh, wow.
Which means all the foam in anything insulated is becoming scarce.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
There's no such thing as a construction season anymore.
Yeah, I guess not. I just figured with the seasons.
Not now because I'm done, but for the past 30, however many years, we'd start foundations in January. We didn't matter. It's just a little more of a hassle. That's all. Costs a little more.
I didn't know that until recently when I had Bruce Champagne do the siding on my house, not this past November, but November before. And when he said he wasn't going to start until November, December, I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, we do it all year round. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he's the best.
Oh yeah, he did a fantastic job. I'm so happy.
He's the best. All right, it's 6:30. I don't know where PJ is. Well, I didn't hear from him. We have 5 applications. The first one is Roger and Sandra Marlin, 70 Park Avenue, Class B variance to remove the hedge and extend a 7-foot hedge on the corner lot. We gave them the variance previously to extend that fence part way, correct, Joe?
Yeah, that's right. The corner portion of it.
Right, so they're extending that, it's a pretty nice looking fence, really, with all the stone and everything. Does everybody understand that one? Have any questions about it, issues?
We also granted right across the street a similar variance for their fence.
Yeah,
Not quite as close to the road, but definitely in the front
Yeah.
yard setback.
I mean, I think these people, that's a busy street. I mean, I don't have a big issue with it, frankly, and I think it's pretty, they want to match the rest of what they have there. I think we granted to them before, but anyway, just anybody not understand it, that's the main thing. Now we can decide it in the meeting, but do you have any good questions about it? No? Okay. The second one is Gabe Gerard. I think I want to, for purposes of discussion right this minute, I'd like to hold on that for a second and go to two of the other, Jeremy Blow at North, because Gerard's a little more complex. Class B variance for an addition to an existing detached garage. Request will result in overage of open space. Actually, it's a deficiency in open space, I guess, really, right, Joe?
Yeah, actually, I think it's lot coverage.
Yeah, it's okay. And Lisa, can you hear me now, Lisa? Okay. I think that when I looked at that, way earlier before it went in the paper, I didn't catch that until today. The overage, or it doesn't matter really. It's what we know what the intent is. But anyway, it doesn't seem to be, I don't have too many questions about it. I get it. It doesn't, it's not within 5 feet of the property line either, right? It's strictly open space, right, Joe?
Yeah, it's lot coverage. It's not setback issue.
Yeah. And then Tom Cosgrove, Class B variance to add a detached garage less than 5 feet from the property line and install fencing greater than 4 feet high in front yard. Do people have questions about that? No? Everybody, I'm having a little trouble, I will say, understanding the fence exactly, because it's that drawn that clearly, number one, and number two, I need them to explain why it can't be a few feet over if it has to do with the driveway or what. But other than that, I didn't have much of an issue. Jim Abdallah, 55 Prospect, Class B variance to construct a covered porch patio on the back of the home and a pool house outbuilding in the rear yard, allowable building coverage. And I did the math, and it might be different, Joe, than yours a little bit or not, but basically on his lot, oh, it's still on my calculator. 5%, which is about what he says he's over, is 383.45 square feet. So, and that's because he's building a 16 by 40, 640 square foot pool house. So I might ask questions about that, but that's really he's not within the setback. He's not closer than 5 feet, et cetera, et cetera. So the real question is, why does he need such a big pool house? I guess that's my question to, and if it was smaller, it'd be less of a, problem. But does anybody have any other questions about that?
What was the original variance that was granted to him? I found the one from last year. And
Right.
that was for the front porch in the setback. But what was the one back in, I think, 2008?
Is that
When he constructed his house originally?
I'm not quite sure, but there were two listed on it. And I
Yeah,
found
he
one.
mentioned that he applied for one, But it didn't say if it was approved or
We
not.
gave him one.
Yeah,
did?
no, I think, I think he also needed a slight variance when he first, built that house on that lot. So I'll go look it up.
Yeah, okay.
Was he the one who built after the fire?
Yes, okay. So that's a question, but the reason I wanted to put Gabe Gerard on is so that we could talk about that a little bit in length. And talk about, because we don't see them very often these days. Hi, PJ. You forgot to reply all that you were coming, PJ. I'm chastising you.
Oh,
Don't you feel bad?
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm just going to assume you're here if you don't say no. Anyway,
So-
but it'd be
So
good.
tell
if
me,
you did.
can Joe walk into any one of our windows here? Like he just did?
Yeah. So I want to talk about use variances because I don't think some of you have actually ever seen a use variance. Has there been a use variance, Megan or Ellie or Julie or PJ, since you've been on the board? I don't think a class A variance.
I think we had one, maybe back in December for the flower shop, maybe.
Yeah, that might have been, right? That was a use variance. And they couldn't, okay, so let's, was that and they had trouble, that's right, they had trouble renting it. Same issue here. The problem we have with, I want to talk about use variances because use variances in general are very different from area variances. And what we have some problems, or I do anyway. I'm not talking about the intent of the application or whether it's bad or good, not even any of that yet. But this is a class A variance, it's a use variance, and they must meet 4 criteria that they don't have an negative impact on the neighborhood, that they show that they can't get a reasonable return without the variance, why they're different, and most importantly, that the need for the variance is not self-created. And that is, and this isn't a guideline, you know, when you look at the class B variances and they say, is it self-created? This will not be, is not necessarily a reason for denial. But in class A variances, it is a reason for denial. And the problem we have here, and I think, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was told that it was not a variance that is easy to get, correct? By your
Right.
office.
Right.
Right. So here's the problem in a nutshell is that it's the RH district, which is relatively the strictest district in the city about this stuff. We don't allow multifamilies, and we've granted graciously, frankly, the ability for a bigger house in the RH district to have both one residence and one professional office, because both are allowable, although the professional office is a special use permit. And we've said, well, we can interpret it that way. We've done that since actually Rick Perry was building inspector, right, Joe? I think Rick was the one who came up with that, basically. And the problem we have here is that, and we've always had this with Class A variances, we tell applicants, oh, you want to buy that building and do something to it? Don't buy it until you get it, because it's a self-created hardship. And this has been like this. I'm almost at 22 years now. In June, it'll be 22 years. It's always been like this. You can't buy something and then say it's not self-created. So unfortunately, Mr. Gerard's first problem here is that he does not pass that litmus test. It is there's just no way around it. And there are ways around him getting to do what he wants to do, maybe, but this isn't it. And that's a problem. And I'm not trying to be mean about it. And I know him. He's a nice guy. He's doing good stuff. I'm not saying he's a bad owner. Is it true, by the way, Carol Klepper wrote the correspondence that we got today, has that been turned into an apartment and people are living there?
I believe that's true, yes.
Well, so I mean, I didn't realize that. I thought he was trying to do this to get permission to do it, but that's even sort of worse. And it's not the problem I have is it's not an excuse that you didn't know. And he talks about in his application, well, I guess we bought it and thought that we could do this. That's not how it works. It's like saying, oh, I didn't know I needed a permit for the fence. Why can't I put it there? My property. Whatever it is, you're enjoined to know the code or find out before you make an investment like that.
Ron, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Um, anybody that knows me knows I am not a fan of people acting and then asking for forgiveness.
right.
Not a fan of that at all. But I do have to ask, a while back, Mike Boulet's old office on Court Street,
Who? Yeah.
Mike Boulet's, didn't he ask for the same thing? And I just want to know what's the proximity to this building? Wasn't it like,
Well, they're in the same district, the ones on
Yeah.
Court, ones on Brickerhall.
and, okay, because
And
they
he
had
asked
asked
for-
for to change the office into an apartment building,
No, wait, just.
the downstairs.
Mike Boulay is on Brincroft Street, the same as this one, although it's at the other end of Brincroft Street.
Oh, is it? For some reason, I thought he was on,
He may have had,
Court.
I don't remember the particulars, this is probably 5 or 6 years ago. He may have had a longer time frame where, right, their dentist office was on the first floor there, and they
right.
moved out to the Tom Miller Road. That first floor was vacant for a long time. They may have had, but yeah, it was 3 or 4 unit. I think it was a 4-unit building with the dentist office, and ultimately they created a 5th unit where the
But
dentist.
he owned it for a long time too, didn't he?
Yeah,
Joe?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and here, the differences are, and again, I know Gabe Gerard. I mean, I don't think I need to recuse myself, but he did paint my house 7 years ago or something. But and the problem is that we are very restricted about Class A variances and can't just grant them. And first of all, even if it wasn't self-created, which it definitely was because he bought it within the past few years, and he should have asked, but if it wasn't self-created, he still doesn't have enough information here. You need to bring in all the financial stuff. And people used to say, I don't have to show you that. And we used to say, yeah, you don't have to get a variance either. The fact of the matter is we needed the purchase price. We need to know everything he spent. You don't count the mortgage toward it. You can't say, well, I'm paying this much in a mortgage. We don't care, because that's helping you get eventually, principal in the building. You have to demonstrate very clearly how you've tried to market it and how you've tried to rent it. And it isn't, and I did read Carol Klepper's letter, some of which was valid, but it isn't about, I could rent it for way more money. And a reasonable return, frankly, is zero. It's not losing money. And so you need to know about everything that's rented in the building, and you need to know that. But the problem we have is that before we even get to that, and Joe asked me earlier, should we postpone so we can get that together? He can't get past that it's a self-created thing. What he needs to do and what needs to happen is that, now who's that just came in? Who's appearing on there?
He's the applicant on 70.
Ah,
He's the applicant at 70 Park Ave.
He
Okay.
just got moved over.
But the issue is that what he needs to do is go and if we think that this is appropriate, and it might be, but our hands are tied. What he needs to happen is that the council needs to change the ordinance, or as they're doing the master plan, they need to change the ordinance to say that as offices in the RH district become obsolete, here are the ways that they can be changed to a residential use and the limits on them. What you don't want is people going, oh, I got a residential, an office here, I'm gonna put 2 apartments, it's huge, and I can put 2 apartments in there with 4 students in each one, or whatever it is, and all kinds of density issues. It's not something that, we can't do it anyway here. We can't just say, yeah, go ahead and build an office because of the self-created problem. And I've been back, I've looked at it and got, and even if not, we don't have enough information. But the point is not to say, come back next month with more information and we can see why you're not getting a reasonable return, which I think you'd probably have trouble proving anyway, because depending on what the building was, we need all that information. What was it bought for? What are the expenses? And all that, so, and the fact that they just assumed that they could do it. And I think that that's a problem. And he certainly has been around, he's been buying buildings and doing stuff. It's not and even if he hadn't been, it's not an excuse for not being self-created. And it truly is self-created. I think our advice needs to be, and I'm not telling the board what to do, but I don't know if he in any way can even qualify to be voted on. It needs to be changed, whether it's part of the new master plan that Melena and everybody's working on, whether it's a different change to the zoning code. It has to be thought out. There are several of these smaller professional offices in the RH district, and there are probably some in the R1 district. I don't know, Joe, but there might be some that if people are going to start converting them to apartments, it has to be thought out. It can't just be, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Is this rule in place because of the college?
What's that?
Is the rule in place because of the college and trying to keep students out of the RH district, or what? I guess I just don't understand.
The RH district is,
Yeah.
what about it? Is it, say it once
Like,
more.
was this rule put in place so that people weren't filling all these buildings with
Well,
college?
that and yeah, partly because of that. It was partly because people were, all the old houses were getting snapped up. There was no control of density,
Mhm.
and it was a stricter R1 basically. It used to be R1, right, Joe? And then they changed it from R1 to RH.
Yeah, and the mid '80s, there was a lot of converting going on in there, and the neighborhood tried to do something to put a lid on it, and what they did was change it from R2 to R1, which was really restrictive. So for a number of years, it had to fit under the R1 requirements, and then the late '90s, it was converted to R2 RH, and it does have a few allowances that the R1 district doesn't have, like office for and accessory apartment.
Right. And part of that RH was to allow these professional offices, because it was felt that at the time there wasn't, people could do them. They had these little, single or 2 lawyer offices or a little insurance office or something on those things. And whether or not the impact, it was Liberty Abstract. I mean, nobody went to Liberty Abstract, to get stuff. They asked them or mailed them, or they did stuff, and they did everything at the county court. But at whatever kind of professional office it was, in general, although the parking requirements might be different, the impact is shorter duration during, business hours, and then not at night. And then there's a difference in impact in the RH district from residential uses, depending on whether it's young adults, depending on if it's what kind of housing, and a number of bedrooms even, yeah, he wants it to be 2 bedroom. The real problem here is whether we even, and I know Melena said, oh, she thought it was a good use for the space, but that totally discounts the whole issue of the of the Class A variance process. We're really, I'm just telling you that our hands are tied because I don't see any way around the fact that it's a self-created hardship. and he can't have one if it's a self-created hardship. It's not like, well, we think it's okay. There's none of that because it's a Class A variance. If it was a Class B variance for area and bulk control, we can do whatever we want, whether it's self-created. It even says that it doesn't matter, you know. And I'm not saying he shouldn't convert it, although I didn't realize that he'd already done it. I thought he was saying, I want to be able to do this. It's even worse if in fact it's been converted already to and somebody's living there. And did he get caught, Joe, or did he?
I'm actually not certain of the circumstance. It was brought to my attention. I think one of my guys dealt with the issue, and we immediately required him to seek a use variance.
Right. So theoretically, he's supposed to be vacating the apartment, correct?
Well, as soon as he applies for the variance, it creates a stay of legal proceedings on our part. So we
Right. But if assuming that he can't get a variance, his next step is to have to vacate the apartment till it gets resolved. Is that correct?
that's right.
Okay. So that's why I said it's a little complicated, and this isn't about being mean or not being mean or liking or not liking somebody. It's not even really about the fact that he did it without a permit of any kind. I mean, did he not? I'm assuming that if he changed it from an office, he had to do some work in there, right? Without a permit.
Well, I mean, his application says he didn't need to do any work in there.
Oh, that it had a kitchen and a bathroom, so maybe it did. Who knows? But that's really the problem we're faced with. And we're faced with, aside from the fact that he doesn't have enough information, I believe, and I would say that, and Joe, unless you think that's differently, I believe that it's a self-created hardship and that we can't, it sort of stopped our action.
I don't believe differently, but I don't have a vote here. But I will tell you this: zoning is just part of the issue here. Even if the zoning board found its way to approve this, we have building code issues because once it changes from a 2-unit residential building to a 3-unit, it kicks in several building code requirements that are hard to comply with, like the sprinkler system and fire alarm, I think, some other things that are expensive and difficult.
Right. But the fact of the matter, do you agree that it is a self-created hardship?
I mean, I haven't heard his argument. I don't, I can't say that with 100% certainty, but it seems like you're on track with your line of thinking.
Right. Okay. So that's the issue, and we can talk about this in the meeting, but that's the issue we have with that application. And again, aside, there are ways to get this done. The way is not for us to try and approve something that we don't have the jurisdiction to do. We can't approve a Class A variance where there's been a self-created hardship. Can't do it. Plain and simple. I mean, I don't know how to say it any other way.
When did they buy the property?
Sometime in the fall. We don't get automatically notified of a sale. So, and I haven't talked to Gabe Gerard myself personally about this issue, but I believe it was in the fall.
So, I mean, he's been through zoning with us before. He was the owner where they did the sports, the workout club down on Guy Way. That building's gone now, but he understands that there's zoning requirements, and it's just not a, and he says there's an application that they just assumed or thought they could put a third apartment and change it. And then,
So I need to let you guys know, full disclosure. I would not say that Gabe and his family are friends, but we did have daughters that played on the same soccer team together. We spent time at soccer games together and sat in close proximity and had friend groups. I don't know if that qualifies for being a conflict of interest. I'm just letting you know.
Well, like I said, he painted my house 7 years ago. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think it does. Listen, we're bound to know people unless you feel it's a problem.
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean, it's like saying, my granddaughter went to the same high school as your daughter. Does that mean that we have a conflict? No, we went to music concerts together, didn't we?
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's why that one's a little more complex.
Well, I think, let's circle back to Kelly for a second. Do you feel like you can vote impartially?
What's that, Joe?
I'm
Yeah,
asking Kelly if she feels like she can vote impartially.
now that I have let you guys know about this information, I feel better about it just because I think you should have an awareness. But yeah, I definitely feel I can.
Very good.
You definitely can vote. Is that what you said? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to tell you that it's going to be if you want to know the truth, actually, it would be my advice not to ask us to vote and to withdraw it or postpone it and go to the city and try and figure out a way to do it. I don't see any purpose in us turning one down because he's got a self-created hardship. If he asks us to vote, that's going to be the problem. And I don't think I'm missing something. And I don't dislike him. And I'm not even saying it shouldn't be an apartment. I'm saying that this isn't the way the process works. That's all. So.
But
Anyway,
on the flip side, if we don't vote and we keep it out there, the city can't take action against it.
he'd have to withdraw his application, which would then stop the stay, correct, Joe?
Yes.
Right. He'd have to withdraw his application. But at least it wouldn't have been denied.
I think that's probably sound advice because he may want to come back with the same application and may not want to wait a year on it. It seems like
right.
Other instances like this, one of the key components to this is how long the unit has been vacant or they've had to try to market it. I mean, certainly that's up to the ZBA about, what's a satisfactory amount of time.
Right. But the fact of the matter is it's still self-created. And I think that his best way to get to it is to figure out a way to change that part of the zoning code as it relates to the RH, because I think we're going to see this more and more often. People have these, I don't know, BJ, you tell us, are people having trouble renting offices?
Office space is definitely a lot softer than residential, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we're going to see it more, and instead of trying to deal with this. I mean, the fact of the matter is that no matter, as far, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to push that on anyone, but in my opinion, it's a self-created hardship and we can't grant it no matter what he did. And it's better for us to try and help him. And I'm willing to do that. I mean, even to talk to whoever as part of the matter and come up with a plan that's acceptable as a means to convert these offices without hurting the density of the RH district, which I have a fondness for since I live in it. But it doesn't affect me. He's way over on Prinkruff, except unless I go to the Y. But it's just this is a procedural thing, and I think we have to be very careful because, and what Carol Klepper happened to say is true. If we start granting these, then everybody's going to come and say, "Well, you gave it to that guy. You gave it to that guy." So, anyway,
well, listen about granting them. I mean, Kelly brought up a good point. The Boulets, theirs was a little different. I think you granted it because it wasn't somebody that had just bought it. It was
right.
It was a property that was in the family for a long time, and they had tried for a while to do something with it. I mean, I don't remember the specific circumstances, but I don't think it's, I don't think it's beyond the board to be allowed to grant a variance for that, in that district.
No,
if
but only, not if
circumstances-
it's self-created, right? The problem is that if somebody buys it just assuming they're gonna be able to do it, and it was irresponsible and didn't check the rules, and comes back and, you know, that's the problem, really. And so I think there are ways to help him. But listen, it's 7 o'clock. Does anybody have questions before I wrap up this 6:30 meeting? If not, we can start the official meeting. Okay, all right. Nobody has a conflict with owning property or anything, Lisa? Joe, anybody?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so it'll be the 5 regular members voting, and PJ and Julie. Yeah, okay. So, all right. I'm putting my glasses on. This is official now. All right. I am calling to order the April 19th, 2021 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to hear 5 different appeals. We have Roger and Sandra Marlin that'll go first. Gabe Gerard will be second. Jeremy Blow third. Tom Cosgrove fourth. And Jim Abdallah fifth. Okay. So I would say that we are ready, Kyle or whoever's controlling this, to do Roger and Sandra Marlin of 70 Park Avenue. You want to let them have access? Who's doing that? You, Lisa, or
I am, yep, they should be popping in a minute.
Oh, hi there. How are you? Good evening. Can you hear? You're muted. You need to push the space bar or something. You're still muted, it looks like. There you go.
How about that?
That's perfect. Good evening. We've
Good
seen you
evening.
before, haven't we?
Yes, you have.
And this
On a
is
similar issue.
yes, well, this is a Class B area variance to remove the hedge and extend the 7-foot fence on the corner lot up on Park Avenue.
Correct. Yes.
And the Clinton County Planning Board found it to be a local issue, which means that they didn't even have a comment. And we have your application. And the problem is that the fence is 7 feet tall, correct?
The existing, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. The one that you built recently.
4 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, is 7 feet tall, and you want to extend that. And in the same style, correct?
Correct.
And I remember now the topographical conditions at the northwest corner are caused by the street elevation to the west. And I remember all the street elevation issues and all that stuff.
Correct.
I want to tell you, by the way, it's a very nice fence.
Thank you. Yes.
And we have a short form seeker, an existing fence to be matched in kind. And we have, I just want to be clear about something. Kyle, are you putting stuff up? The last page of it shows the area of the request. This one, can you put that up? How tall is the hedge, by the way? Taller than 7 feet, correct?
It starts out, it's probably at the far end because the land slopes down towards the, as you're going away from the house,
Yeah.
land slopes down. It's probably about 9 feet at that point. And then
Right.
it comes up near the house. It's approximately 7 feet, I think.
Yeah, it's taller than I am.
Okay, and so the area that we're talking about is where that black, right there, that black line. No.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, because the fence now is
Right in that tree area. Yep.
Right next to the house, kind of, goes just to the back of the house a little ways,
Well,
right?
where that, right in the corner of the lot, yes.
Right, yeah, but on the, okay. So that is how many feet? 70 feet or something?
The total distance, I think that's what we measured, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm gonna open this to the board first. Does anybody have questions about this? Concerns?
Yeah, we really don't have a sketch of where it's going relative to the house.
The fence, well, just look at the center line of the hedge now.
Well, how are you terminating it at the house? Are you bringing it over and
It'll
then
be
turning
it'll be a stone pillar, the same as the opposite end.
Will it be closer to Prospect Ave than the corner of the house?
No. It wouldn't be any closer to the Prospect. It's going to be the same distance from the curb as it is now.
Because right now the hedge is beyond the corner of the house, correct?
No,
Right.
No.
Where the hedge sticks out, you mean?
Correct.
oh,
But it's gonna be even with the fence.
the,
It's gonna, is it gonna?
the fence is
No.
pretty much, see the red property line, the fence is going to be pretty much right there where the property line is. It's not going to go any closer than the existing fence that is there now. It's all going to be in line, and it'll be the same distance from center line as it is now.
That's close to the property line, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
If not on the property line.
The stone block column is going to be equidistant from Prospect as the one that's currently there now in the back corner, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Scott?
And the same height.
Kind of. I mean, as I look at it, that hedge is closer to Prospect than the house is.
Correct. Yeah, but the fence will be approximately 18 to 24 inches closer to our property or farther away from the street.
Okay.
So
So
where
basically,
the center line of the hedge is, correct?
Correct.
Right, not the outside of the hedge, the center line of it in a sense.
Correct. The center of the hedge, not that where the picture you have there now, that fence will just continue at the same distance from center line of the road all the way up to the house.
Right. Kyle, can you zoom in where that fence, no, the other picture that you had, can you zoom in where that fence meets the hedge? Keep going. Yeah, right. See,
The hedge now sticks out approximately 18 inches beyond that, towards the road.
right. That's what you want to know, Scott, correct?
yeah, I mean, looking at the satellite view, the inside of that hedge is almost even with the corner of the house. I guess I'm thinking that if they measure that and go straight along the curb line, that's going to get to the house and it's not going to be even with the house.
Well, no, because it's the property line, which is back from the curb.
But what I'm saying is that hedge, and I looked at it this evening. I drove by and both of you two were out at your cars, but it looks like if they go straight, they're going to be a couple feet from the house when they get up to it. Unless I'm missing something.
It's the back of the house.
Yeah, it'll be approximately the same distance as the sidewalk now. It'll actually be kind of in the center of the sidewalk.
That runs along the,
Scott, what is your
Yeah.
concern? Are you
Well, I
saying-
just want to be clear as to what we're approving.
Gotcha.
Right.
in that basically it is, as I see it, if it's going to be in the center of that sidewalk, it's not even with the back corner of the house.
Correct.
No, it's not gonna go, otherwise it's gonna go in at an angle.
Okay,
Right. We
And
wanted
we're
to
keeping everything
aesthetic.
perpendicular to the road.
okay.
Okay.
So what you're asking for is a fence to come down the center of the hedge and then turn 90 degrees to go over to the corner of your house.
Well, we'll have a stone column at just beyond the existing sidewalk now.
Right.
That'll end, the fence will end at that point.
So are you enclosing the gap between the fence and the corner of the back of the house?
Make a gate or something?
At this time, we are considering, how to do that with the gate. Yes.
We've hired someone if this is approved. We need privacy. People have commented, boy, I can see your whole yard now. Part of it is because the land is 2 feet below the street. We're really susceptible. I mean, we'd like to go out and have a picnic and not have everybody say, oh, you're having hot dogs tonight. You know,
So we are working at getting a fence, or excuse me, a gate to the house.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions? I'm going to open this to see if there's any public comment.
I have a question kind of in line with I think what Scott was digging at. So if the fence is coming from the existing back corner block, coming forward through the center of the hedge, it's going to end at another square block,
Correct.
whatever you call that. There's going to be a gap between that and the back corner of the house. Are you asking for the variance to include that? I'm assuming your gate is going to be,
The same height.
yeah. So is that included in your request with this, or are you not?
Originally, it
including that?
wasn't. We're considering the gate.
Okay.
and we've asked the contractor to, give us some ideas.
Right.
Okay.
I would think that if you're going to allow, if we're going to talk about approving a 7-foot fence from that existing corner down 70 feet, and there's 4 feet or 5 feet or whatever it is to the corner of the house, it should, if we're going to approve that, it should include closing that off in some way with the same matching fence if they want to, whether it's a gate or a fence, so that it should also be able to join that to the house.
I agree. I just, like Scott was getting at, I think we need to make sure that we verbalize that and the,
You agree, Scott, on that?
I agree. And I guess on the flip side, I'm almost at the point where I'd like to postpone it and get that resolved and get a layout of it, so we know exactly what we're approving. But I don't like approving something where we don't know exactly what we're approving.
would you be open to approving something that was within parameters?
I could, yes.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that too, as long as it's, like I said, as long as we verbalize what that's going to be.
Well, let's understand something. If the fence is going to run on their side of the property line, which is where it can be, correct?
Yep.
For 70 feet, that's what we know about. And if it's going to come down even with the corner of the house, give or take, whatever that distance is to the house, which has to be about 5 feet or more, should be part of that. They should be allowed to connect the 7-foot fence if we're going to approve it to the house. That's all I'm saying.
And you can see what we've done. I mean, we don't do anything. We don't do anything that looks crass.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That's not the concern at
No,
all.
it's beautiful.
No,
That's
well,
not the concern.
when we saw your other fence go up, I think everyone who was involved in it was thrilled. So,
Yeah.
I guess I feel comfortable as to how I would word a motion.
Okay. I'm going to open this to the public. Kyle, is anybody or Lisa, is anybody raising their hand to make a comment?
No.
No hands.
No. Then I'm going to close the public comment period. And if there are no other questions from the board, I'd like to look at the short form seeker that accompanied this application. And this is the old one, isn't it? Do you know why Lisa, why are we having old short form seekers?
I think it may be on the online application.
Yeah, it could be. We need to change that. Anyway, we have a short form seeker that I'm going to do the same thing I did before, which was ask to, assuming that we find no little or no impact, have Lisa prepare for me a new short form. Well, no, I guess just allow me to say that I would have answered questions 1 through 11 as no or small, and that I'm saying that it's no or small for now. Does anybody have a problem with that?
Sure.
What are you talking about? Are you talking
It's the
about the
speaker form.
environmental?
This is, it's not your fault. Well, it is kind of, but it's not really. You have an outdated, what we call short environmental assessment form. There's a newer form. You downloaded it off the website, filled it out properly. They gave you the wrong one. The website did probably.
But
So
then Lisa sent me another one and we filled that one out
Yeah.
and returned it.
Yes.
I don't have that. Does anybody else have that? No.
She told us it
Lisa,
was
do you
wrong in
fill out
on
what
your
you sent?
site, so we got a different one.
She said the site was wrong and she sent us the correct one.
You may have gotten sent the original form instead of the one that they.
I don't have, okay. Well, then.
It might still be in the file.
it
Do you
might-
want Kyle to try and share it?
No problem. Roger and Sandy, you're not in trouble. Let's start with that. Anyway, there can't be much environmental impact no matter what from the fence anyway. Would everybody agree with that statement? Okay, so Lisa, will you get for me eventually the correct one that they filled out, put it in my stuff to sign with this. And what I'm asking for is somebody to make a motion that I can say yes, say no or small impact for the 11 questions and sign it saying no and small impact, which I will do with the correct one.
I'll make a motion for Appeal 2262 after review of the short environmental assessment form. After reviewing parts 1 and part 2, the chairman may check the boxes in part 3, the determination of significance, that there will not be any significant adverse environmental impact from this project.
Okay. Seconded by Ellie. Is that you, Ellie? Yeah. This one will do by a raising of hands. All in favor? All right. Okay, so that's the seeker, just so you know, that's not what we voted on for the fence yet. Okay. Now, if there's no further questions, perhaps Scott, would like to word this properly?
All right, I'd like to make a motion in regards to Appeal 2262 for Roger and Sandra Marland at 70 Park Ave, to remove a hedge and extend their fence within the front yard setback of the side of their house, which is a front yard setback since it is a corner lot. And the fence will go no closer to Prospect than the existing fence is now, and will terminate no more than, I'll say, 1 foot to the south of the northwest corner of the house.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay.
Okay, Ron, hang on a second. Now that it's been seconded, we got 2 issues worth noting. First of all, I'm listed as Lisa because she had to send me a link and we didn't realize till I signed on that. So when we're set up, don't send it to Lisa, send it to the City of Plattsburgh. But I'm also hearing that we have no chat feature at the moment. And we got people working on it, but
We have no what?
chat. For you to send your vote. So
Can we do a verbal?
We can do a verbal.
we'll let you guys discuss how you'd like to do that.
Does anybody have a problem? The question with verbals usually is that somebody can hear and know that all of a sudden they're stuck being the third vote or not. I don't particularly think that's going to be an issue. Does anybody have a problem with this being a verbal one? Okay, then I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to ask, wait, can everybody send them to me?
There's
No.
no chat feature at all
there's-
right now.
Okay. All right. Ellie, your vote.
Yes.
Scott, your vote.
Yes.
Meg, your vote.
Yes.
Kelly, your vote.
Yes.
And my vote is a yes. So it is passed 5-0. You're approved to get your fence done the way you want, do the same beautiful job you did. Thank you so much for participating in the process. You did a great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
And we'll be
Thank
down
you.
to get the permit
Thank you.
now. So,
It's a pleasure having you again. See you again
Thank you
next
so
time
much.
with more fencing.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Okay. Next, we have Dave Gerard. Gabe, I can't see a picture of you. I don't know, maybe you're on your phone, and can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm working on it. It should be good now.
Okay, take your time. It's okay.
All right.
There you are. Hi, Gabe.
Hi.
Okay, just so you know, in the 6:30 meeting, it was revealed that A, you painted my house 7 years ago, and B, you went to soccer games with Kelly Porter. Neither of us feel that that's a reason for recusal. Just want to let
Okay.
you know.
Is that going to be held against me?
Yeah. Hi, did you listen to the 6:30 meeting at all?
Briefly, just the tail end of it.
Okay. So here's the problem. I'll just tell you, I'm going to take over for a second here. I mean, I'm in charge anyway, I guess. Here's the problem in a nutshell. It's a Class A variance. If it's the same thing we tell people all the time, and I'm going to say it to you like this: our hands are tied, really.
Mhm.
No matter, first of all, you don't have enough information really anyway. If this wasn't an issue, but And I'll talk to you some more about that after. But the fact of the matter is that it's a self-created hardship. You bought the property under present zoning, and I think you understand this. And but it's not, in my mind, and I've been doing this quite a while. I do not believe that in any way it's a Class A variance we can approve because you bought the building under present zoning code. If you had owned the building, as an example, Joe brought up Boulez before. If you had bought the building or owned the building for 25 or 30 years, it was a family building, that means you owned it before these zoning rules took effect. But because you bought them after, and I understand that you thought you might be able to do the apartment and made that assumption. And I think you know now that you probably shouldn't have assumed that because it's a little more complex than that. But that is in a nutshell the problem. The problem is that it's there are 4 criteria for a Class A use variance, and one of them, the hardest one for people to get by, is self-created hardship. That's not something we're allowed to deviate from. We can't go, oh, that doesn't matter. He's a nice guy, or he's really not getting a return, or that. So that is a huge problem. Like it's a reason. I don't know what word to use. Disqualify or not disqualify, whatever word you. In other words, we can't really grant a Class A variance when you made it self-created. That doesn't mean we don't understand your plight. Nor does it, I'm not making any value judgment about whether it should be an office or an apartment. That's not the issue here. The issue is a procedural one. I don't know how to tell it to you any other way. Now, I understand though it's an apartment already. It's already being used as an apartment.
Yeah, so if I could just give a little bit of background, it'll take 30 seconds. This isn't even my building. My wife and her business partners bought it. They wanted to utilize me as property maintenance. And the previous gentleman called me and said, would you like to buy this? And to make a long story short, I said, yeah, it'd be fantastic. The only reason I found out about the zoning was when the tenant, we moved, I had a previous tenant that was looking for a place. So the day that we closed, I had a tenant move in. It was ready to be utilized as an apartment. I did understand that it was previously utilized as an office space. I got that, but I just didn't really look closely at all. So it's a self-induced hardship. But
and I listen, I have no joy in telling you this. Certainly.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So here, and we talked about it extensively in the meeting, and actually Joe and I have talked about it a bit just to try to understand it. I want to go back one step so you fully understand what the Class A variance has to do. And aside, let's just talk about it for a few minutes. What's required, and you have to show it's not a detriment to the quality of life in the neighborhood. Why your property is different. You also have to show that you can't get a reasonable return otherwise. Now, to do that, you had a very tiny bit of financial information. You said we couldn't rent it for 800. We're renting for 1,300. None of that matters. What really matters is, and we've done this many times in the past, somebody that wants a Class A variance, and normally what we do is we tell people, you can't buy it. Have the owner apply. You can apply on behalf of the owner so that it's approved, and then you buy it and it becomes not self-created. But the owner, when you talk about reasonable return, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you don't lose. So what would have to happen if the self-created hardship wasn't an issue, which it is that you'd have to say, here's what we paid for the building, here's all of our payments, and you can't count the mortgage payments because they go towards eventually becoming principal. In other words, you eventually pay off with the rents, pay the mortgage, eventually you end up with a building that you own. And it's pretty strict how that's done, but you have to have the expenses, you have to have what you paid for it, you have all that stuff. It's a relatively a big spreadsheet type thing. We've gotten them over. We used to have Marissa Gilbert on the board, who was an accountant, and she'd go through them like crazy. So aside from anything else, the information that you have now, doesn't show you can't get a reasonable return. It's not a matter of saying, well, look, we can make more money if we sell, rent this for this or what. I mean, it makes no money, and I understand that if it doesn't rent as an office. I talked to PJ a little bit before, and he said, yeah, the office market is soft, not like residential. I get all that. The real issue is that what needs to happen, and they're doing the master plan now, what needs to happen is that the rule needs to get changed. The only way you're really going to be able to deal with this at this point, because it's self-created, is to work on, and I'm glad to help some with it, and Joe can help with it, and they're doing the master plan. The zoning has to be changed so that these offices can be converted to residences within a certain set of guidelines. In other words, not to create a ton of college housing, which is not, I know, the market you're after with a 2-bedroom apartment. I understand that. Okay. I'm not saying there might not be young adults living there, but it's not a bunch of 4-bedroom apartments. I get that. Okay. So I don't know what the best advice is to give you, and we can vote on it and deny it based on the fact that it's self-created, which is relatively automatic thing. You can withdraw it, which means that sometimes as stuff changes in the future, or as you get more stuff where you can really make a difference, or maybe you can figure out a way to transfer it in a different way to somebody else who then is the owner, and you can't make the self-created hardship and they have to buy it. I don't know. What I do know is that if we vote on it, you can't come back with the same request for a year. However, it can't hang in limbo. I didn't know it until recently. I didn't know that it was already occupied. What it's going to, when you withdraw it, it stops the stay on Joe's action. You have to work out it. That's not our concern. That's between you and the building inspector. And I'm trying to give you the best advice I can. I'm not, right? Do you understand that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So I don't know what I do know, and I feel pretty strongly about my, I feel pretty strongly that the self-created hardship is a real thing that you have as a situation, and that it is that would prevent the granting of a use variance. I'm pretty convinced that that's correct, having done this for a long time. And again, it has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with whether it even should be an apartment. The fact of the matter is that the minute we grant first of all, it's challengeable. I mean, if somebody didn't like it, they could do an Article 78 and say, how could you grant a Class A variance when there was a self-created hardship? And it's obviously, I mean, just as an example. So I guess that's the question. And I don't know what you're going to, I'm trying to give you the best advice I can. First of all, we don't have enough information financially anyway, frankly. And I'd be glad to sit down and talk with you and Joe about this. But what we can't do is, and Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we can't just postpone this indefinitely so that apartment just stays there either. I don't know if, and I'm trying to, again, advise you the best I can. I do know that if we vote on the apartment tonight and deny it, you won't be able to come back for that apartment for a year. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, Joe, it's not in our jurisdiction to talk about how you deal with enforcement of apartments, correct?
Yeah, I think that's essentially correct. I mean, one of the questions you were asking was indefinitely postponing. I think there has to be, I think everybody needs to exercise all reasonable measures here.
Say that again, Joe, the last thing.
I think we need to exercise reasonable measures.
Right. So do you want to, for now, withdraw your application, Gabe? And I'm not, I'm trying to give you the best advice I can.
Yeah, I guess I would seek the advice of the board because I really don't know what the best course of action.
Right.
So one of the things Ron just said was that if this goes to a vote and it's denied, you cannot apply, you can't come back in front of the board with the same application for at least a year. It has to be substantially different. So if you wanted to come back for this as an apartment, you wouldn't be allowed to do it for at least a year. If the
Gabe,
board,
Yeah.
just from my perspective, my advice as my part in this board would be to withdraw, and then meet with Joe and Ron and discuss your options. Because I think it's even a little bit more complicated than what we've talked about today. But I can, as Ron said, it's pretty much a done deal that we wouldn't really be able to approve this as is. But you might have some options that we haven't discussed here.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I just have a question. If I do withdraw, then do I have to give my tenant like notice? I've already prepared her the fact that she might have to move out, based on my, error. So would I talk to Joe about the timeline at a later date, or when should we have to?
Let me just say, Gabe, that's what I was asking Joe before. I don't think that's in our jurisdiction. I think that is a thing for you to discuss with Joe, what's reasonable for him. We know that we're not going to go, oh, you withdrew, they got to be out tomorrow.
Sure.
Right. And that doesn't mean they can stay 6 months. So
Got it.
but I think that is an enforcement issue with the building inspector as opposed to a board decision. And your withdrawal with us it only means that it's going to stop the stay of the proceedings, and how Joe proceeds is up to him and you. Is that correct, Joe?
yeah, I would say that's an accurate assessment of that.
Right. So, and again, Gabe, I'm trying to be helpful, and I will gladly meet with you and Joe to discuss this.
Mm-hmm. No,
I have to go into City Hall, but I think I'm going to start anyway because I'm all vaccinated. So, any other, Scott or anybody else? Meg, you want to make a comment? Ellie? Okay, Scott?
My only comment would have been basically when we get done with this meeting, either he commits to withdrawing or we vote. And it sounds like he's going to withdraw. So I'm fine with that.
Okay. So, I guess Kyle, what we don't need to vote on the withdrawal. All you have to say is that in light of this information, I'm sorry, Gabe, in light of this information, you want to withdraw your application, and that knowing that you're going to be able to meet with the building inspector and the chair.
Okay. In light of this information, I'd like to withdraw my application.
Okay. Thank you very much, Gabe.
All right.
Joe,
Thank you.
set something up when you get a chance. Thanks, Gabe.
I will.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you, Gabe.
Bye. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Next is Jeremy Blow and Christopher Blow, I believe. And Gabe is off now. No, Gabe's still showing.
Chris looks like he's having trouble signing in. He was there, now he's gone.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Lisa.
Chris looks like he's having trouble signing in.
Okay, then
I sent
shall
him
we
an
go to the
email.
next? Shall we go to another one and then come back to him? Okay, the next one is Tom Cosgrove, 11 Stetson Avenue. We'll try them.
Tom should be coming in.
Hi, Tom. And
good evening, everybody.
Susanna, is that what you like? Do you like Susanna or Sue?
Susanna, I like the song. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
You got moved up in the schedule because somebody else couldn't sign in, having tech issues.
All right,
You're at 11 Stetson Avenue,
we are.
and you want to build a detached garage. Who drew the plans, by the way?
So this set of drawings is from an online website called sheddrafts.com, and they.
Yeah, I see. Did you do it?
I did not do these. No, this is something that I found
Right.
and sort of took a look at and saw we've got some detailed drawings. We've got some
Yeah, it's good.
you know, some of the structural stuff and thought better than I could do.
There's a lot of details that don't necessarily pertain to us, but one of the questions I wanted to make sure about before we talk about actually what you're applying for is that the full height, as far as I can tell, the roof, I thought I saw that, is how tall? What I want to do is make sure that we don't have a problem with the average. You're only allowed to be 12 feet tall to the middle of the roof, not the peak. And you show a wall. Oh wait, here it is. This is the drawing I wanted to. I knew I saw it. Hold on. Yeah. So your roof is your truss is 52 inches, 4 feet in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Right, and your wall is 9 foot. One, are you resting that wall on a row of blocks?
The plan is going to be to pour a foundation for it to set it on a foundation.
Okay, and is that foundation going to stick up out of the ground some and then the slabs recessed?
Yeah, I would say probably no more than 3 inches is my guess.
Yeah, I go a little higher, but anyway.
Okay.
But anyway, so let's just say that we have 14 feet, 9 foot, 6 or 7, okay, and another 52 inches, which is 4'4", right?
Yes.
So we should not have an issue at all with the 12 feet, Joe. Would you say that's correct?
Yes, I would say that's correct.
Okay. 52 is 4'8", and it's 15 feet wide, so it's a fairly steep pitch, right, Joe? It's going to be 2.5 feet. It could be close, right?
Where are you
Yeah,
coming up with where you coming up with the 52 inches? I got.
It's on the truss drawing, Joe. Look, Joe, look what I'm holding up. See the 52?
I got a truss. No, it's the rear gable truss that says 48.
Yeah, it's the other truss. That's what I was looking at. I couldn't understand either.
Okay.
So that's 52.
All right.
I just want to make sure if he's 9'1", right? That's 4'4", 4 feet 4. That's 13 feet 4. He might be able to. You would only be able to come up a few inches, and still be. You need a 12-foot average. That's what I'm just going to tell you. That it'd be assuming that you would have a 12-foot height to the average height of the roof, which is half the height of the roof. You know what I'm saying, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to assume for purposes of the application that you're not asking for a variance for building height.
We're not if that's something that we should be asking for because we're close to the line.
No, what you should be doing is making sure you build it. You might have to do, instead of a 5'12", you might have to do a 4'12" pitch in the roof. That's all, or something like that.
Understood.
Okay. You're allowed 12 feet. So basically, instead of 52 inches, you went to a 48-inch high truss plus 10 feet. That's 14. Halfway up it is 12.
Got it.
Well, the other thing, Ron, these plans are all drawn as if it's going just on a slab.
Right.
His doorways are standard height doorways, as if the wood was going right on a flat slab.
Right.
So that would be really where they would alter it, is make that shorter if they came up with a foundation wall.
Right. So you got several ways to do it. I'm just saying that we're not considering, it's not applied for, and we're not considering that variance.
Understood.
The main question I have is, why is it only 2 feet from the property? I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be, but why is it only 2 feet from the property line? Is that a function of the driveway or something?
Yeah, it's a function of the driveway. So the driveway we're not planning on widening the driveway any, so it would match almost existing with where the driveway sits. Our neighbors on the it would be to the west here. They have a fence behind our hedge there. And so I know that we've got, if we put a slab in, we're going to need so much drainage underneath that. And we're not going to, I don't want to dig underneath or have to get anywhere near their fence to have to, put crushed stone and things like that would go underneath the foundation or set any of the concrete forms.
Right. But you're only 2 feet. The building is supposed to be 5 feet from the property line. That's my question. Why is it over so close?
Yeah, that's right. So it would be over the 5 feet just as a function of where the existing driveway already is. The existing driveway would be, further than 5 feet.
Did you say you're expanding the driveway or no?
No, we're not planning on changing any aspect of the driveway.
Is the driveway 2 feet from the property line? Is the driveway 2 feet from the property line then?
Yes. Yeah, it might be a bit less, but.
Right, but it's existing.
It is, that's correct.
Okay, so the reason, that's what I'm just trying to understand. The reason you want to put this building 2 feet away from the property line is because the driveway is 2 feet away, the existing driveway.
That's right.
Right, and you're not expanding the driveway over from, like, say it was 5 feet away to 2 feet. It's already 2 feet away or whatever.
Right.
It's already too close, because the driveway, actually, the paving is only supposed to be 3 feet away from the property line. So that's pre-existing non-conforming. You're not asking for that. I just want to make sure that's what it was.
Yes.
Pre-existing.
Kyle, are there any pictures?
What's that?
Just wondering if Kyle could put up some pictures. Okay, so there is a hedge there too. Okay.
Right.
That's the overhead. I do have a couple other pictures I can share.
And, okay, so I understand that. The second part of the question is, can you explain to me the fence?
Yes, I can. I believe I may have attached some crude drawings to the application on where this would be going. So the probably, yeah, that photo is a great place to start. So the fence will be along this side on the Lynn side. It would be along the sidewalk on the Lynn side. And it would be closer than, I think we need, because our, as I understand it, 2 front yards. So we need to be so far set back from the sidewalk. And the idea would be to set a fence 2 feet from the sidewalk, which would allow us enough width to get a lawnmower in there, and set a gate across our sidewalk, which you can see sort of to the right side of that photo. And then it would also extend over, if you go to the second photograph,
right,
it would extend over behind that evergreen tree. You can see a railing coming off of our porch. So the fence would go along this line directly sort of at that same angle as what comes off of the porch. And it would need to effectively fence off any one coming out of our porch into, directly into the backyard and not right onto the sidewalk.
Right, and you want you want that fence to be how tall? 5 feet?
Yes, 5 feet high, with the idea of more privacy at a 4-foot level and a top lattice for the top foot that would still allow for, some privacy, but
Personally, I think that's harder. You're allowed a 4-foot fence.
Mhm.
And fences in the front yard, those big fences in the front yard are usually for pretty well-traveled thoroughfares where we talk about them being larger, but I'm going to open this to the board to let them ask questions about both the fence and the garage.
So I'll start.
Okay.
I absolutely understand why you want the garage where it is. I can see from the pictures in your aerial view picture that you have your existing driveway there and you want to kind of keep it tucked in that corner. You've got a nice hedge between the garage that you're proposing and your neighbors that already exists. And they have a building, maybe that's the hedge, I'm not sure. So I get the garage part. As Ron kind of indicated, I think it is harder to feel okay about a tall fence in that area. So I guess my question is, would you be willing to compromise on the fence size and keep it at the 4-foot? Is that something that you would be willing to consider?
We would. I think the reason we wanted it to be a bit higher, our house is relatively close to the road, and we feel a little bit in a fishbowl at times with very little privacy along those lines. I don't know if it's possible to pull up Google Street View at our intersection, but we also, I guess we went with 5 foot because we do also see neighbors in our vicinity in our same intersection that have a 6-foot fence. And we didn't want to go that high, but we did want to be a little bit higher than head height, I guess, which is why 5 feet was chosen.
Are you going to eventually bring the fence back to kind of border your driveway, or is it going to just stay open on that one side?
We're planning on doing a living, like bushes along the driveway, so that eventually, so the yard will be fully enclosed, because we have a young daughter who doesn't understand how to stop from running out into the street.
Working on
there.
Yeah.
Scott, I know you're dying to ask a question or two.
Actually, I was just pulling up Street View on another computer to try and look at it. My other question, or my question kind of in line with yours, Kelly, is would you consider moving the fence back even with the house?
I don't think so, because the fence would be that would really split any size yard that we have already. We already have a relatively it's not small compared to other city lots, but it's relatively small. It's only about 40 by 35, I think is what I measured the other day. So we were hoping to, again, for our young daughter, sort of maximize as much green space as we could have rather than bisect the lawn with a fence.
Yeah, see, I'm just going to tell you that the real issue is, and the fence comes along, and I think it goes diagonally to the house. Is that what that red line is?
Yeah, it would turn so it would be even with the angle that the steps come off of the porch. And from there, the idea, again, because we have an evergreen there, it would most likely step down from that last fence post and would go stepwise down at an angle to meet that railing, and that would allow the evergreen some light and allow for more visibility.
Your address is Stetson, correct?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
But this,
So here's little zoning lesson. The reason people come for a variance is one of the reasons they say is my property is unique within the district. It's different than other properties. And your property, I don't like 4-foot fences. I mean, higher fences in front yards really at all. But the reason that your property is unique is because, and there are many of them like this, it's a corner lot with 2 front yards. So if this was a side yard, you could have a higher fence, but it wouldn't border a neighbor, it wouldn't border a street. And that's the problem you have. That's what's unique about it. I don't like tall fences. Now, I mean, at all, I really don't. I like, unless it's you're on Broad Street or Cornelia or something, and I'm familiar with Lind and Stetson. I live, over in Couch. But that's why. Did you say is the fence that you want to put lattice on the top?
That's correct. Yes.
Go to 4 feet, and I mean, this is not a side. If this was in the other one, once you got past the front of the house, you could be 6 feet. Correct, Joe?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So, and you're not asking for 6 feet, you're asking for 5. I mean, I don't know. I have to think about that. I guess I'm going to tell you, and I really don't like tall fences in front yards, but I think that I don't know if it's going to, especially if it's got lattice, frankly, because I find that to be a little different, oddly enough, for that foot, even though it qualifies as fence. And I'm not splitting hairs, but I mean, I think that makes, this is in a sense like a side yard, even though it's a front yard for you. And that's, I don't have a problem really. The garage is, I just wanted to make sure about the 2 feet, but I understand that. We have no correspondence on this from anybody. Your neighbor doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Is that correct?
We reached out to our neighbors and we did not hear anything back from any of them.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the neighbor right next door, right behind you, if you will.
Right, Mary.
They don't care.
Oh, for the garage. No, we didn't. No, she didn't care. No, she said whatever, it's on our property.
Well, do we have any, I'm going to open this to the public, see if anybody is here to comment, okay? Who does that, Kyle?
Yeah, there's no one there.
Okay, so I'm closing the public hearing portion of this now. Any more questions about the fence, the garage?
I have one.
Okay.
Is there any way of, you mentioned that you have a neighbor nearby that's got a 6-foot fence. And Kyle, I was just wondering, where in proximity are you referring to that fence?
Yes.
Kitty corner.
I think it's directly kitty corner to them across the street. I think that fence had to do with a hedge that was removed. I think that's Chris Beach's place. That's a 6-foot fence. I also think there was a fence I think there's a fence at the other corner at Elm Street.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yep.
And then there's one block west at the corner of Stetson and North Catherine. That's sort of similar to, I mean, looks like around 5 feet with the top foot being lattice.
Very helpful. Are there more questions about this before we do a seeker? I mean, then we can discuss, but let's look at this. Okay, again, this is the right one. You're lucky. You're not in trouble.
Okay.
No, for some reason, the last one we did. All right, so this is the proper seeker. Okay, as now you're really in trouble because you've answered a question wrong. It just disjoints everything. Now, item number 2, does the proposed action require a permit or funding from any other governmental agency? If yes, name and permit approval. You have no, and it is not. It's a yes, often made. You need 2 things. You need a variance from the ZBA, and you need a building permit from the building inspector. Okay,
That
Yep.
was number 2.
so that one is wrong.
No, like it was number 2.
And otherwise, these things don't really have much of an environmental impact. Does anybody have any other questions about the short form seeker? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Don't make me call on someone.
Megan or Elizabeth?
I would, but my dogs are that right now. There's a cat. I'm sorry. I'll do one after.
Okay, who's gonna do it?
I'll make a motion in regards to the short environmental assessment form for appeal 2265, that after review of part 1, that the questions 1 through 11 in part 2 be checked. No or small impact may occur. And as a result, the chair check in part 3, the question that says we find that there will be no or small impact may occur as a result of this action.
Seconded by Megan. Thank
I'll
you.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, that's the seeker. I'm just gonna say, I fully understand the 2 feet. And I think now, the more I look at it, and especially knowing that you've got other neighbors, even though it's for a hedge, but other fences typical of that in the area, and I would want any motion to include the fact that the 1 foot, the top 1 foot is lattice. I don't actually have a problem with fence anymore. So, anyway, I'm looking for a motion then regarding approval of a plan to locate the garage 2 feet from the property line because of the driveway, and a 5-foot fence as shown on the plan, with the top 1 foot being lattice.
Can we separate it into 2 motions?
Sure.
Just because I think we have different feelings based on one or the other type of thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I will let you know, your neighbor on Lynn Street, that house I was born in, or that's where I lived when I was born, 13 Lynn Street.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
terrific.
So my parents had the house built.
That's fantastic.
So I'll make a motion in regards to appeal 2265, shall we call it A?
Yes.
To construction of a detached garage, violating the setback to the yards as shown on their plans.
Seconded by Kelly. Okay. Are we still not sending texts, or are we able to do that? I'm going to do a roll call. Yes. Is that correct?
That's correct. We,
Okay.
not yet.
All right. Megan,
Yes.
Ellie,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Ron, yes. So that's the garage. I'm looking for a second motion now regarding B, regarding the fence.
I make a second motion in regards to appeal number 2265B, to approve the installation of a fence that is 5 feet tall with lattice at the top,
12 inches.
12-inch lattice.
Seconded by Megan. Okay,
Can we specify location
yes,
of the fence?
as per the,
Yeah,
um,
just give me a second.
it's how far did you say from the sidewalk? 2 feet?
Yes, 2 feet.
2 feet from the sidewalk, running from the driveway to a point, at which point it goes diagonally to the house, correct, as shown on the plan? Is
Correct.
that close enough, Scott, for location? Okay. Ellie, you want to put that as part of your,
Just to add that it's 2 feet from the sidewalk running back along the house diagonally.
2 feet from the sidewalk, right?
Do I repeat the whole thing?
Diagonally to the house, as shown on the plan.
Okay. So I make a motion to approve PO number 2265, Part B for the 5-foot fence with the 12-inch lattice, 2 feet from the sidewalk running diagonally along the house.
Yes. Seconded by Megan. Okay, Megan,
Yes.
Ellie,
Yes.
Kelly,
No.
Scott,
No.
Ron, yes. So it is a 3-2 vote, which is what you need. You need 3 positive votes, which you got to provide the fence that way. And you're all set with both variances, or the one variance for 2 parts. Thank you very much for participating.
Ron,
Yeah.
all right, sometimes you allow us to kind of tell why we came to our
Oh, yes.
decision, and I would like to do that.
Oh, yes, I will do that. Thank you.
First of all, Tom, and I didn't catch your name, I'm sorry.
Susanna.
Susanna. I love your name, by the way. I want you to know that your house is absolutely gorgeous. I love your place, and I'm not trying to be difficult. I think your idea is really beautiful. I am struggling with the number of 5 and 6 feet tall fences that are being requested. I'm finding that it's happening all over the place, and it's a little alarming for me. And I definitely would have approved for the 2 feet, but it was the height. That's my only issue, but I know you'll do a great job with it. So enjoy your project.
Scott?
I agree with Kelly, the other aspect, and I have this issue, just that it is farther in the setback than the house itself. And that's why I asked the question before. But I don't disagree that I'm sure you'll do a good job. I just prefer them set back farther, that they not be out in your face, so to speak. At least it is 2 feet back and not right on the sidewalk. But so either way, you're approved.
Right. Ellie, why did you vote yes?
Because they're where they're located, and I think that we've approved similar variances for similar reasons, being on a corner lot. I think that it's a reasonable request.
Okay. Megan?
Same with Ellie, although it's not a Cornelia Street or a Broad Street, I completely understand the want for some privacy with a young daughter. They are near a school, so I think it could probably be pretty hectic at certain times of the day. So yeah.
Okay. And I voted yes for both parts. I actually probably struggled more with the garage, frankly, than I would have thought about asking, if anything, to move the garage 5 feet from the property line, if you want to know the truth. And even if you had to build the driveway further over into your yard, etc. But in the end, I felt that it's less impact and less of a curb cut. The fence, I really do struggle with tall fences. I almost actually voted no, but I think that the lattice helped, and the fact that it's a corner lot. and that you didn't ask for a 6-foot fence, which we often get in front yards. People want 6-foot fences. So, and that it was lattice and all that, just sort of tied together to make it enough to make me vote yes. So either way, you got 3 votes. Takes 3 votes to carry a motion. You got 3 votes. You got 5 for the garage. You're all set. Get your permit. Have fun. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
For your time.
Thank you for your time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And guys, I did find the street view of 1 block over. A fence exactly what they're talking about on the property line. Just to let you know, just to show you, this is what they're talking about. It's one block over. So
yeah,
I don't know if that makes you feel any better, but that is what they were talking about.
Right.
And that one's right on the sidewalk too.
Yeah. Do we have Jeremy and Christopher Blow yet?
Yes, they're here now.
Okay.
I'm running to get a drink really quick while they're getting settled in.
And, I just wait for their. Did we lose Julie?
Just muted it. Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Jeremy, you were your phone.
Yes, are you
That's not the problem.
We're just waiting to see you, so we can't hear you too if you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, yeah, we're looking for we can't see you. Are you on a computer?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, somebody you gotta turn your camera on or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that. Sorry. It's up, but it's I'll try to get it.
It should have allowed you to.
Camera, you can't. He can hear us, but he can't see us. There we go.
There you go. Hello. How are you?
Good, thanks.
And you are?
I'm Chris Blow.
Okay.
This is Jeremy Blow here.
Okay. Oh, there you go. How are you guys? Good evening. And this is at 5228 North Catherine. And you want to do a garage addition. And I just want to be clear. You have a garage that's 14 feet wide, and attached to it is the 8-foot storage shed.
Yes. Yes.
And you're going to go 20 feet plus. I just want to make sure I'm. Yes, you've got a 14 by 24. You're going to add 8 by 24, which incorporates that storage shed.
That's correct.
And another 20 by 24, so that altogether you're going to be 42 feet by 24 feet. That's what it adds up to on my plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right? It's the 20 feet does not incorporate the 8 feet. That's my question. Correct?
That's true.
On this plan, it looks to me like that's what it is 14 feet, 8 feet, and 20 feet, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're doing the same thing. Is that 9 feet tall, correct?
Correct.
You've got 9 feet tall, and then you've got a 412 pitch roof. Again, I don't know if you listen. Do you guys see when we're doing other applicants?
Yes.
Okay, so I asked them about their garage. So if you have one of the problems I see, Joe, is that if they have a 412 pitch roof, On a 24-foot wide garage, that's 4 feet and 12. That means that that's 12 feet tall plus 9 is 13. So I guess unless they put a foundation under, raise it up more than that. Is that including the block, the 9 feet, like a block base or something?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you're okay because that'd be 13 feet. The average would be 11 and a half feet, right, Joe?
That's right.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about pitch. Joe, are we not concerned about, we're only concerned about green space, correct? Not
Yeah,
coverage?
No, the issue is coverage, not green space.
Not green space. And what is the deficiency, Joe? Can you tell me?
Well, I see in their application, they say it's a 2% issue. When I measured it today, I measured it from satellite imagery and I come up with a 4% issue. But, when I measure, I'm picking up some overhangs. I come up with their current coverage is 27.6%, which the maximum allowed is 30%. So, but with this addition, that would bring them to 34.1%.
And is there, do you know what would they need to reduce this? I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, but what would they need to reduce it? How many square feet? Do you have that by any chance?
Yeah, it's 4% of that lot is 295 square feet.
Well, about 8 feet, a little less than 8 feet in length, which is probably doesn't help you because you couldn't even get the other garage door in there, right?
I don't think so.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To comply, you wouldn't be able to put the second garage door in, right?
Right. Right.
Unless you got rid of the storage shed and moved it over, I suppose.
Yeah, just have 2 bays instead of storage.
Say that again, sir.
Just have the 2 bays, the 2 garage doors, the 2 bays.
Right.
And no storage in the middle is what Jeremy wants to do. But without that, you're saying that would satisfy?
Well, yeah, and well, let's look at it this way. There's another way to look at this, and that is if you did the 2 bays, give or take, it's 24 feet wide. It's 195. Did you say, Joe?
295.
It's about just 8 and an eighth, around 8 feet, let's say. That if you took, here's what I would tell you, that if you took 8 feet off the garage that you're proposing, you could put the 2 bays next to each other and still have some storage on the right side, and you wouldn't need a variance at all.
There wouldn't be enough room for what I want to do.
Well, we can talk about that. I'm giving you the two. I'm sort of giving you the 2 extremes.
Yeah.
I wanted to set the parameters. Now I'm going to let the board talk about it. Questions, board comments?
Kyle, do you have any street views to show us? Oh, she can't be in here.
I can work on getting a Google Street View too.
You see, in some ways, that's I can't see it from here, but that's a storage shed, right?
In the back?
In the back, right?
Yeah, it's a very small, one car garage.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm saying is you'd also have to expand the driveway over to get into that second overhead door, correct?
Well, there's room to probably, to make the corner in the back of the house there and get into a bay, the second
Right, but
bay.
I'm saying you'd have to pave it.
We would have to probably pave it or brick it or something, yeah.
Well, I think it has to be actually paved. I'm not sure, but is that correct, Joe?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
What, do driveways have to be paved as they lead to a garage?
Yeah, I mean, a garage can be used for storage. It doesn't necessarily have to house a vehicle, but if it's going to be used for vehicle, storage or parking, it should be paid.
Okay.
You know, one way to look at this is that if you, you don't really need 20 feet necessarily for the second bay. We gotta be able to open the doors and everything like that, but depending on how you did it, you could put two next to each other and put the storage at the other end and diminish it some. So the sort of the options that we're discussing as a board with you are what you applied for. Not saying that's good or bad or wrong or not. I'm not saying we're not approving that or are approving. Going 8 feet less in length and putting the two overhead doors next to each other, which would still probably give you some storage on the end. Those are the two sort of extremes. Or you could separate them by 4 feet of storage or something like that and have half the 4% that you're asking for. Right? So I'm going to open it to the board to ask more questions. Scott, anybody?
I just want to be clear about what I'm looking at here. And I think you might have already asked this, Ron. I apologize if I wasn't listening. You have the existing 14 by 24 little mini garage there, right? The little white one.
Yeah.
And you're saying attached to that, we can't really see it on the picture, but it looks like there's an 8 by 24 existing storage.
Yes.
Less than 20.
So this 20 by 24 that you're looking to add does not include that 8-foot storage. That's an additional. Okay. So I just want to ask it outright. Are you intending on using that second bay as a bay for parking your car? Okay.
Well, that and light maintenance, whatever you do
Right.
usually in a garage,
Right.
But part of your usage, your planned usage is to utilize it as a driving up to garage for your vehicle.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess my next question would be, because of all the rules that go along with that piece of it, like we were talking about with the paving, that's going to also, correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, that also reduces green space, like the paving and all that. So you're talking about more of a deficiency. Would you be willing to compromise on the size of that in order to get a yes from us? I feel eventually you're going to have to do some paving and it becomes a bigger issue, right?
Right. So you mentioned 4 feet to cut the center section in half, basically to reduce it back to the 2% problem, which I thought we had in the beginning at first anyway. But so would that be a possibility to reduce that 8-foot section that I gave to you to 4 foot?
Right. It still allows you to put that door in the middle, the entry door.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It just would be not entering an 8-foot space. And don't forget, you're going to get 24 feet of this. And I think that I'm just going to tell you from my experience, a 20-foot wide bay is pretty big.
It
for the
is.
car to be in the other 20 feet. So it's really talking about reducing that storage down by maybe what it does is it cuts the variance you're asking for in half. I mean, if you reduced it 8 feet, you wouldn't even be seeing us because you wouldn't need a variance. But we're not asking you to do that either. I'm not saying that's what you should do by any means. But it really makes it, it's a 50% reduction of the variance required. I know it sounds like 2%, 4%, what's the big deal? But it's 50% reduction in the variance. And I think it's probably as functional. It helps with less paving costs, less driveway. I'm not even sure, although I understand having it in the middle, you could also think about putting that door to one side or the other so that you have the two bays together too, so that the space you need for doors to open from cars is the same in a sense. That's up to you, but really we're talking about footprint basically, and we've already determined the height is okay. Is that
Well, Ron, I think you just hit onto something that if that man door was to the right of the two bay doors, you wouldn't have as much paving to do, which would reduce your need for taking more green space.
Yeah. But that's more, we care about the footprint, and we don't even see, a paving plan, but you're going to have to pave to get to these doors. It probably makes more sense to put them both, but maybe you don't want the door all the way over to the right. That's another whole issue, so, or all the way to the left. Scott, do you have any comments on this?
I don't. I guess I'm looking at this and saying this is a pretty big garage that they're asking for. And I'm just kind of wrestling with all of that. Like you said, a 20-foot bay is a pretty wide bay for a single opening, unless you're going to put in two cars into it. And essentially you could do that and you end up with a 3-car garage, which doesn't seem in line with the neighborhood.
So I guess the question would be, what we have to do is do a seeker. That's the environmental thing where that's not so much of an issue, whether or not you're going to cause, severe impact to the environment. I don't think you are. And then the second one is when we make a motion about this and we form this motion based on what we discussed with you. What about would that make it a good compromise for you? Would that be acceptable to go to a 4-foot smaller garage?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Right. If it would get approved. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, we've been wrestling with this all along anyway.
I think this one's a little tougher. It's just big.
Yeah.
And we try and keep, it's not whether it's big, it's also, we talk about the amount of a variance. It's a bit of a does it matter? Yeah, it matters. I mean, I'm not trying to, people otherwise would just build property line to property line and, so that's acceptable to you, a 4-foot narrow, a 4-foot shorter, we'll call that the length, 4 foot less, which would be a 2%, Joe, as opposed to a 4%, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Okay.
Joe, do we have setback issues on the back?
We don't. It looks like they're about 8 feet from the rear property line.
That's surprising. That's good though.
Okay. I'm going to open this. Kyle, I'm opening this to the public. Can you tell me if anybody's raising their hand?
No hands.
Okay, then I'm closing the public hearing portion. And unless there are further questions, I'd like to do the seeker. And we have a short environmental form, the proper one. And of course, You're in the same trouble the last people were in. Big trouble. Number 2, you put no, and it is yes for the proposed action. You need a variance from the ZBA, and you need a building permit. Okay. That is number 2, and it's less than 1 acre on number 3. Other than that, does anybody have any issues with the seeker? If not, I'm looking for a motion from one of the seeker movers.
I can make a motion.
Hello?
I can make
Hello,
a
seeker movers.
motion.
Go ahead, Meg.
Okay. Okay, I move that after review of part 1 of the short environmental assessment form that the chair check no or small impact may occur for items 1 through 11 on part 2 of the form and check the box indicating that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact and sign.
Great. Seconded by Ellie. All right, the duo. And all in favor? Aye? Okay, that's that part. That's the environmental thing. You didn't get past. I am looking for a motion regarding.
Ron,
Yeah.
before you make a motion on the vote, you know, we don't ask for surveys for these kinds of things, and I don't go out there and put a tape measure on the house, you know, and the structures. I do my end of it to see if there's a big discrepancy I see by what they submit, and so, you know, I essentially came up with 4% over as opposed to their 2% over. So I don't know where you're going with this vote, but my 2% or my 4% was based on the measuring tool from satellite imagery, which more than likely picks up some overhangs. So I mean, I don't know what the board is thinking on this at all, but you know, we're somewhere between 2 and 4%. I think is a safe number with what we got.
Is it acceptable to say not to exceed 2% with the 4-foot difference? In other words, they're not going to be more. Yours, if anything, is higher, right?
I would certainly say mine, if anything, is higher because yeah, I'm measuring overhang.
Right. So any motion should include 2 things. One, that it is assumed, because yours is satellite image also, that it is within the required setbacks per garage, number 1. And number 2, that with the 4-foot less than the plans, the submitted plans, the 4-foot less in length, that it shall not exceed 2% in coverage overage, right? And we should
Questions for me?
do that, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. 2% overage may be exactly what they're requesting, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Are you saying that they might be at 2% even with the full 8 feet?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. My 4% was based on satellite imagery. I did not go put a tape on the house and get an accurate measurement of exactly what the coverage was. Let's put it this way. When I do my role in this and I take my measurements, how I always do, if I see a big discrepancy between what they've submitted and what I come up with, then I would actually call them, have them meet me out there, you know, make sure we're really accurate on the number.
Where's the 2%?
What's that?
Chris, where did the 2% come from?
From the building inspector's office.
So I think somebody from my office worked with them earlier. It wasn't me. So 2% was an established number prior to me doing my thing in the last couple of days, taking pictures and verifying some of the numbers. So I would most certainly say the 4% over that I came up with is on the high end of it.
Can we? All right, so we want you to be able, if the 4%, this is a little confusing, but just bear with me. If the 4% is accurate, I'm not saying it is, but if Joe's 4% is certainly the most it is, but is accurate, then by reducing by 4 feet, you're going to be at 2%. If the 2% submitted is accurate, then by reducing by 4 feet, you're going to be at 0. One way to look at this might be to say to allow them up to a 2% variance, if that's acceptable to everybody, to be determined by the final dimensions of which are to be determined not to exceed this. But that way, when you actually measure it, Joe, you're going to say, yeah, it can be 2 feet shorter, 4 feet, or 4 feet shorter, or no shorter.
I think that's fair. I think if the board is getting ready to make a decision based on measurements I took off of satellite imagery, I'm not sure that's fair to the
Does
applicant.
everybody, do you guys understand what we're saying?
I
Kelly?
do, Ron. I think that it's fair to say that the things that I know that I'm struggling with, and I kind of get the sense that Scott is as well, that if he's at 0% overage, with that 4 foot cutoff, that's perfect because.
Yeah, but we don't know that.
So, but what I'm saying is, at the 8 foot total, I don't think we're in line with wanting to approve that. That's my sense of things. So either he goes the 4 foot down and kind of minimizes this so it's more in line with the character of the neighborhood. In which case he's not out of compliance at all. Or we just say we approve it at this at this dimension with that 4 foot less, because I feel like we were kind of in agreement that 8 foot is too much.
Okay, so you're saying basically that we approve it at 4 foot, assuming that they agree to this, 4 foot less, and that the percentage can be that or anything less than 2%. So even if it goes down once they figure it out to 1%, it's okay, but it's at the 4 foot left. But you don't feel comfortable with the full length right now. That's what you're saying.
It's a big building.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'm looking for a motion that would allow the compromise offered by the applicant of a 4 foot shorter building that will allow somewhere up to 2% excessive coverage on the lot. Does that make sense?
No, because if he's saying that 2% means that 8 foot is fine.
No, only the 4 foot still. But that way, we're saying that could be as much as 2% or less. We're not saying the 8 foot is okay. We're saying the 4 foot, like you're saying. I'll say it again. A motion agreeing to the compromise agreed to with the applicant of a 4 foot shorter building by 24 feet, by 24 feet by whatever it is, 38, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would allow, just because we want to talk about coverage, a coverage variance of up to 2%, but still staying at the 4 feet less.
As long as we have that clause of staying at the 4 foot.
Less. And is that acceptable to you guys?
Totally, yes.
That is.
Yes.
Okay. So who wants to make a motion with the 4 foot less maximum Scott, is that you raising your hand? Go ahead, pal.
You knew I would.
Yes, I knew you would.
I'll make a motion in regards to Appeal 2264 for Jeremy Blow and Christopher Blow at 5228 North Catherine Street to approve a garage in addition to their existing garage that is, I gotta get that drawing up. That is 16 feet by 24 feet maximum added to the footprint. And
No,
and yes,
4 feet
and
less.
24 feet.
24 by 16.
No, there's the 8-foot storage area still there.
That's existing.
Only part of it.
Is only part of that.
Yeah, that's like a shed or something, right?
Yes, yes,
That's a shed that comes out part way. So the addition, that's going away, right? That shed
that's correct. It's being incorporated in the new addition.
is incorporated into that. That if you look at
Oh, I didn't understand that either.
Now, is the shed that is attached to the existing garage,
going away,
and it is 8 feet off of the existing garage?
you got he's talking
Yes.
about
So where are we adding to the footprint in the storage area?
from the.
What am I missing?
Let's go back one step. I believe they have a 14 by 24 garage, and if we go, this plan shows 28 feet added to it.
I mean,
Is that correct? You're taking off the 8-foot storage and putting a 28. This is what this shows, and we're asking for a 24-foot add.
That's correct.
I guess what I don't understand, the satellite view shows a rectangular building. Is that not true?
Hold on.
The small garage is rectangular.
Okay.
So is there one roof over those two separate rooms?
Yes,
Okay, so it gives the appearance of one building.
that's correct.
Okay.
So the footprint that is being added to that you show on your plans is 20 feet.
That's correct.
So
But now it's down. Now we're talking 16.
correct. So
Yeah.
Ron, I am correct.
Am I incorrect?
They're adding 16 by 24 on their existing footprint.
Okay.
Because the storage is existing now. 14-foot garage and 8-foot storage.
All part of one thing.
All part of one, essentially one building, maybe added to, but it's basically one footprint.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's still the same square footage. You're right. It's the addition that's different.
The
So you're
addition,
talking about a 16 by 24 addition.
Right.
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Go ahead.
All right, so let me start that over. I'd like to make a motion in regards to appeal 2264 for Jeremy Blow and Christopher Blow at 5228 North Catherine Street to do an addition of 16 feet by 24 feet on the side of an existing garage, and it cannot exceed 32% total coverage of the lot. It will be the smaller of the two, be it 14 or 16 by 24 or 2% over the 30% allowed.
Okay.
I second that. Yeah.
Okay.
Or, sorry,
Kelly,
Elizabeth, you can if you want.
That's fine. Yeah, I'll let you do the next one. Okay. We're still doing a verbal call, roll call.
Still no chat, yep.
Okay. Scott,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Ellie,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Ron, yes, you're all set. Thank you very much for the compromise, and work with Joe to make sure you're all set permit wise and get actual exact dimensions, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay. And the last one is Jim Abdallah. Is that correct? Is he waiting in the wings anxiously? Yes, he is. Jim.
What? Oh. Sorry.
Back up.
And Krista.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Thanks for waiting patiently. You want to build a pool shed, and in a nutshell, you're asking for you're allowed 25% coverage and you're at 30% coverage with the proposed plan. And I guess we're going to, and it's a 16 by 40 pool shed. And did you watch us with the beat up the last two guys?
I do. I do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
I don't think we beat them up exactly. They were, I guess all in a nutshell, it comes down to, is there any way to make your, I mean, I'll just jump to it, to make the pool shed a little bit smaller?
So I do have a little more information to offer in terms of what we've offered in the past for a plan, because you have seen us before, and then how we arrived at what we got today.
Right.
So number one, I did watch the pre-meeting a little bit, and I think Scott had questions about the prior variances. You know, the variance I got in 2008 for the house was for the 1 foot side yard setback on the south property line. That was the variance then.
Did you go right back on the same foundation?
I did. Okay. I think that was part of my discussion point then.
And that's something you can't change. You know, that's obvious.
Well, I went on the same footprint. The foundation is brand new, but it's the same footprint. And then when I came to you, I don't know, several months ago, I guess now, I looked at the front porch, and the front porch matches that frontage again, so it has a 1 foot overhang. And then I did remove my garage and expand my pavement, which is a little closer to the property line, on the north property line. And that was the variance that you granted last year for me. So that's the variances on the property that, you know, you have seen to date.
Right.
As far as how I arrived, or we arrived at this building coverage we're at now. So back when we came to you last year, we had you know, the proposed pool house building at a sort of a open to the sky pergola attaching it, and that was 16 by 32 roughly. Since that time, the two things that I identified, you know, is that we lost 400 square feet of a garage, number one. So, you know, I realized that the whole pergola idea didn't make a whole lot of sense, and I really needed to have some level of storage in that building, you know, to make up for what we lost in the garage. And then the other big thing that really increased the space over is, even though I have a backyard patio over the back of off the back of the house, there was no roof ever proposed over it. And once I put the porch on in the front, and I realized the benefit of that, I'm like, why wouldn't I do this in the back? So really, the things that threw me over on building coverage wasn't like an increase in what I had proposed for that pool house recreation building. It was really the fact that I wanted to have more storage, and I wanted to put a covered roof over the patio that exists there today. So, you know, we have thought this out. You know, we do plan on staying here in the city, or would love to stay here, you know, long term in the city. We do see that this really maximizes the property, but family wise, the other thing we focused on too, and anybody who's driven down Prospect and seen our house, or seen our, middle-aged high school kids. We did have a basketball hoop out in front, sat on the curb for many years here now. I've removed that and now have a basketball hoop in the back where that paved section is. So taking the kids out of the street. Truthfully, when I had the garage in the back, the backyard really sucked. It wasn't a good backyard. It wasn't a real functional backyard. And my goal is to create a backyard now that is more of the focus instead of what has been our front yard today. When kids came over, they played out in the front yard. They played basketball on the road, trying to create, I guess, a final family space in the back. So I don't know truthfully how much I would reduce or would want to. I mean, I think I've thought it out what I see as maximizes the property for the best use of the family. Provides a little storage. Actually, if I was, yes, in a little bit different zone, like the gentleman prior, I wouldn't be in front of you because he's allowed a 30% coverage. For some reason, our zone has 25%,
Yeah.
So with that said,
I'll open it to the board to see what they have questions they have.
Hi, James.
Hi.
I just want to confirm the deck that's off the back of the house, it exists right now, right? This isn't something that you're going to build. You actually have the deck, you're looking to cover it?
It's a concrete patio. So there's a patio and then it comes across and there's a Bilco door that's part of it too. So, I mean, truthfully, I've dealt with it long enough with snow and ice and everything else that try to shovel out. And I figured, yes, it all exists though today.
Okay, so you're generally looking just to cover an existing patio section that has the hot tub on it.
Correct.
Are you putting any decking over that slab or you're just keeping the slab?
I'm not decided on whether I'm going to put decking over the top or not. It does have a couple steps up to the rear door, so there is a potential that I might build it up to to match the front or to match the first floor height.
Second question. How much are you willing to compromise on the size of that building? Not as concerned about the 16-foot width. It's the 40-foot that's got me a little past my comfort zone. That's a pretty sizable building. And you're looking to make part of it as your pool house and the other part for storage.
Yep.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess how much is the board comfortable? I mean, I don't know. Once again, if I was in the zone of the prior applicant, 30% allowed. That's other part of the city, but it's 30% allowed. When I look at the pool house I'm proposing, it's 640 square feet. The building with the addition you just approved in the last application, 912 square feet. I don't know.
You're about 383 square feet. At 5%, you're about 383 square feet over.
Yep.
That's 640. So no matter what you do, you're not going to reduce it enough to get to none.
Mm-hmm.
That's and have anything that's effective. Does it matter? As an example, if every 6 feet you take off it is only 1%.
Okay.
Let's understand it that way. So, like to say, it's going to be, if he builds any kind of building there, it's going to be over no matter what. So the question is there, and I like stuff is, we're supposed to grant the minimum variance we can, right? We all understand that. But I guess when you look at it in that way, the 5% all being attached to this building, where how much this is built, he'd have to take 30 feet off it to just about to, 25 feet or something 20 feet, 20 some odd feet just to comply, which you can't do. It's not effective then. It's not worth this building. So the question is, does 6 feet make a difference where it's 1% less? Does that really matter to us? I'm not saying it does or doesn't. I'm giving you the questions. You know, that's kind of the question. Is that does the, if we're not really the concept comes here that we're adding a building that has to be effective to be used, or else there's no point in adding it. Like there's no point in adding a 20-foot pool shed. I guess I would say, as an example, doesn't meet any needs relatively. So that's the question. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be. I'm just giving you some questions to think about. Scott, you have an opinion?
Well, I guess I want to take a step back and take a look at a couple of things. First off, and the same thing held with the previous one, what we approved was basically a 6% overage of the allowed coverage. You're asking for a 20% overage of the allowed coverage. The allowed coverage is 25% of your lot, and you're going 5% over. 5% over 25 is 20%. So it's a significantly different ballgame than what we previously approved. The other is what previously we approved may very well end up even being less than that. The other thing is there are two things involved here. There's the covering of the patio in the back and the pool. Both of those figure into this addition. Whether it's one or the other, I just because somebody wants to put something on here, he's in a different. The previous one was in a different area. They've got 2-family homes. You don't have 2-family homes in your area. You can't compare them. I have a real problem with the size of this. I have a pool shed in my backyard that's 8 feet by 12 feet. Very functional. And you aren't even, I noticed you aren't even putting your pool equipment in the pool shed or the pool house. I mean, this pool house is over half the square footage of your base house. That's my feeling. I guess I don't really have any questions unless you're willing to compromise, but I have a real hard time approving 20% over the allowed coverage.
So I guess I'd have to ask the board in terms of the compromise. I can say to your comment about multifamily, I do live across the street from multifamily, although maybe grandfathered, it's a large multifamily. And then
yeah, actually it was doctor's offices when it was built. I remember I lived in that area when it was built.
And actually, to tell you the truth, I just found out I have multifamily behind me too. Like just one street over, there's a fourplex. So there's plenty. I could go through the zone and find plenty of
grandfathered in
variance driven non-conforming uses. But
yeah,
you know, with that said, you know, I guess, you know, I would be open to the board's suggestions. I will say that definitely the coverage of the porch on the back of the home is really what really threw me further into this variance. You know, that is almost 240 square feet because I want to put a roof over an existing patio, you know.
So I was just going to suggest, Ron, if you're okay with it, separating this variance request between the pool house and the patio coverage, like we did with the previous one, between the garage and the fence.
But they directly affect each other.
Yeah. It's, it's only the one issue, it's the coverage, right? It's not open space. The pool doesn't, Joe, the pool does not count towards building coverage, correct?
The pool does not count against building coverage. In some cases, it could count against open space, but that's only if it represents a third of what's required, and it doesn't. So it doesn't go against either.
Okay. So I guess, Jim, it sounds like there's a sort of a push here for a compromise, and the question is, I guess I'll ask it this way: what's the smallest
I guess
pool house that works for you, other than
if
16 by
if I
40?
if I lost 6 feet, 1%, is that acceptable? I mean, truthfully, just like anybody else, it's not something I wanted to lose. But if that's something the board would consider, 6 feet, 1%.
I have to ask the board. Kelly, are you looking for something like 6 feet shorter?
No, I am really sorry. I don't mean to be a bummer, but that's just a really big building for a pool house and storage. It's a really big building, and it's like Scott said, it's like half the size of the footprint of your house. You're putting a whole nother structure out there for your pool. 16 feet wide is large, but 40 feet that's just huge.
Well,
The width of your pool is 20 feet. I personally can say that if you went 16 by 20, I think I could be okay with that. Then that's a large building, but it would be in line with the size of your pool and more conforming as a pool accessory building. Yeah, that's my feeling. Sorry. And I will say that is with I'm fine with the coverage of your patio. If you went to 16 by 20 and did that plus the coverage of your patio, I would be good with that.
Okay, so 12 feet. So 12 feet, that would put me at 16 by 28. A 2% reduction, 16 by 28.
I'm looking for comments from the board. I don't want to step in here.
That would put me at 30. Would put me at what? 22% or 23%.
Scott, what are your feelings on that one?
You're looking at going to 16 by what building?
16 by 28.
That's Scott, loosely based on the fact that every 6 feet is about 1%, or in your case, 5%. Right, Scott?
Yeah.
Or in your way you look at it. So, and I want to do, let's just do those, make sure we're right, Jim. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's correct, but I'm going to do it once more, the numbers, okay?
Yep.
It is a 7,669 lot times 0.05 is 383.45 square feet over. Okay. If I divide that 383.45 divided by 16 feet wide is 20. sorry. 23.96, about 24 square feet per foot. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. 24, every foot takes 24 square feet off of that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
669 square feet times 0.05. I'll do it another way. Equals 383 square feet. Right? And there's 5% that you're over. So if I divide that by 5, it's 76.69 feet per percent. Divided by 16 wide, actually it's 4.79, is that right? I want to do it, I just want to make sure what we're talking about. 383 divided by 5% that you're over, right? 76. No, it's actually better. 76.69. I said that wrong. It's not 6 feet. 76.69 square feet per percent. Divided by 16 wide is 4.79 feet per percent. It's not 6 feet, it's less than 5. If you reduced 4.79 feet is a percent. 4.8 feet, whatever you want. 4 feet 9. Every 4 feet 9 is 1%. Okay, so if you reduced it times 3, 14 feet, a little over, touch over 14 feet would be 3% less. 12 feet would be like 2.5 or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not including the porch coverage.
I think
So if I
It is. Okay.
so if I did this, if I reduced it by 10 feet, which is a quarter of the building, that would put me down at roughly 28% coverage. It's coming near to half of my overage. So that I'd have a pool, that structure would be 40 or 30 by 16. Is that acceptable?
I'm going to put it this way. If you reduced it 10 feet to a 30-foot building, you would get rid of 239 square feet of the 300 and whatever I said. 239. I'm going to write these down. So I remember. You are 383 feet over, and 383.45 over, and 239.
Now I had 406 deficient.
Huh? What's that?
Maybe my calculations are wrong. I had 406 square feet
It's
deficiency.
a 7,669 square foot lot, isn't it?
Seven six six nine. Yes.
Times 0.05.
383.
Right? 386.45 is 5%. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And what I'm going to tell you is that if you take 383.45, right?
Yes.
And if you take 383.45 and divided by 16 comes to 23.9625 square feet per foot times 10, it's 239.65 feet, which is divided by okay. 239.65 divided by that'd be a 62% reduction in the 5%, a little over 3%.
If you went down 10 feet.
If you went 10 feet less. If you went 16 by 30, you would reduce the overage by more than half, by 62%.
I could live with that.
Ellie or Megan, do you have any comments? Questions? Okay.
I definitely want you to have a roof over your hot tub. I have a hot tub and you use it year round.
I don't want it.
Necessity.
Does everybody understand that? I'm cryptic about the math, but does it? What I did is I took the, just so everybody understands how we got to this, I took 5% of the total lot that he was over, 383.45 feet. I divided that by 16 wide, meant that there was 23.96 blah, 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 blah square feet per foot of building, multiplied it times 10. Meant he was going to take 239.46, 240 feet from 385 or 84 square feet. It's a 60% reduction in the overage. It's about a little over 3% of the 5%. Right, Scott? Do you agree with my numbers?
I'm not sure.
Huh?
I'm not sure. I'm running through the numbers, but because I had a different deficiency, but I mean, we won't quibble over a few square feet.
No, okay. So the question is, Jim, a 10-foot reduction is acceptable to you?
Yes.
Scott, do you have any other questions?
I do not.
Kelly, do you?
No, I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to look at the short form seeker. And I don't see, am I missing part of it or is it out of order? Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay. Yep, you got them both on there. Number 2, the only one tonight. Good job. All right. Does anybody, I'm looking for a motion regarding the seeker. Let's start with that.
I can, so I can redeem myself from the first motion ever on Jim's last appearance here. Alrighty, I move that after review of part 1 of the short form environmental assessment form, that the chair check no or small impact may occur for items 1 through 11 on part 2 of the form, and check the box indicating that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact, and sign.
Seconded by Ellie. All in favor, raise your hands and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Now, is everybody clear that what the motion will be. Anybody clear? Oops, there you go.
Scott, you good?
I'm ready for a motion. Oh, wait, did we open this to the public?
We did not.
Okay, Kyle, can you tell me if there's any hands being raised?
There's no one in the audience.
All right, I'm closing the public hearing portion.
Hey, Ron, FYI, I don't know whether I can put to the record, I do have letters from my neighbors. So I can put
Okay.
those into the, I can get those over to Joe's office for the record.
Okay.
Just on Mr. Cleveland's house. It's the only one I couldn't get.
They like it?
Do you want me to list the addresses and then,
No, I don't.
or just give them to Joe?
Just give it to Joe,
Okay.
unless anybody else cares.
As long as they're positive.
No, they're good letters.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We're assuming they are.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a motion.
Scott, you want to make that or?
No.
Okay. I will make the motion for appeal 2266 for a Class B area variance request to construct a covered porch patio in the back of the home and the pool house outbuilding in the rear yard for approval of the coverage of the patio and also approval of an agreed upon modification to the building to be 16 feet by 30 feet, reducing the deficiency to an acceptable. We don't have an exact number, right? But we agreed to the size of the building.
Approximately 3%.
Approximately 3%.
Second.
Seconded by Ellie. Are we ready for a vote?
Yep.
Okay. Kelly,
Yes.
Ellie,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Scott,
No.
Ron, yes. We're all set, Jim. Thank you for the compromise. Go get your building permit.
Thank you for everybody holding out.
Because, hold on one second, because we had a yes, no thing. Scott, you want to say why you voted no?
I think I've made my position pretty clear. I just think the pool house is too big for the lot, but you got 4 yes votes, so you're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jim. James.
Jim, I'm not gonna lie, I started out feeling like this was really oversized. I really appreciate the compromise. I have a 10-foot building myself, so I know what a decrease you just made. And I think that sits better with me. I know that it's all about compromise, right? So you've got neighbors. I saw one of the responses saying that they wanted to be invited to the pool party. So you've got neighbors that are appreciating what you're doing. And, I think you're going to give a beautiful end product. So
That wasn't a neighbor. That was Milana.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was.
Oh, you're right.
To the neighbors too, though.
Ellie, any comments about why you voted yes?
Exactly the same as Kelly.
Okay, and Meg?
Fine with the reduction, and I have been waiting for this moment to redeem myself for months, so thank you.
I voted yes because Jim's my friend. No, I voted yes because that's not it. It's true he's my friend, but I voted yes because I thought the compromise was realistic enough, and I understand that it's not that probably had he said pool shed and storage area, it would have been a little easier than saying pool shed. Maybe in some people, and I think that the compromise of 25% reduction in the building size was appropriate, made it a little better for the lot. And I think that it's very hard if you want people to develop and stay and live in R1 districts and in residential districts, it's hard to push them too hard, and otherwise it just becomes impossible for people to live there. On the other hand, in some of the districts, I think we have to be vigilant about density. This doesn't seem like it really increased density for me, especially because it's just more of an area variance. And then I think the improvements to the property are good. So you're all set to go, Jim. Thank you for your patience and your cooperation.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Thanks. We're all set on that. Listen, I had sent out the thing about, and it's not that late, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I had people that asked me about, and Kelly, you wanted to talk to me some about it too, and I didn't get to, but this thing that Milena sent out, I don't want to, as a board, comment about it in any way. Like, I don't want us to unifiedly send in a statement or anything. I think people need to get back to her with what they want, but more, I just want to know if people had questions about it. And Kyle, do you have that available or no?
I don't have it. I don't know if Lisa has it in the office.
It was sent to me by Joe, but anyway, do people have this? Do you know what I'm talking about? The spreadsheet thing with all the
Yes.
stuff on it? Okay. You don't. We don't need it up on the thing then. What I'm going to tell you is, and not to go crazy, some of this is coming out of this comprehensive plan and master plan stuff, and there's a big push to like change a bunch of things. And I'm not saying change is bad, certainly in any way. But some of these things to me were a little scary, and I didn't even know about it at first until Marissa Gilbert sent it to me because it had been sent to the planning board. And you know, there's sort of been this whole thing about complete streets and smart towns and all this other stuff, and it's all great. But I will say that I was a little concerned about, and I'm not trying to push in any way what I feel about this onto you guys or say that you should or shouldn't say any of this. But I'm pretty protective of some of the standards we have, and more what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I'm going to credit this, by the way, towards our 4 hours. Okay, just so you know, because this is training as far as I'm concerned. Is that if you go through them, performance form-based development code standards allow for more mixed use, but doesn't negatively impact historic character. 15-minute neighborhood concept. I mean, stuff that doesn't, you know, it's all these sort of buzzwords. But anyway, mixed use must be flexible enough to not stifle design. These are all very conceptual, those kinds of things, and you can't say they're good or bad. Rezoning areas like Harborside and Boynton, rethink the districts. I think it's easy to say that that's something we should do, but it's not easy to say what those are. I did have comments about a couple things though. The parking minimums, and this is a big thing here, no parking requirements for new development in C district. That's downtown. All other parking requirements adjusted to meet current minimum standards. I don't know what that means, but my comment is that we must keep parking minimums. It's the strongest tool we have. When people come to us and they want to do something, we control a lot of density with parking. And I know that this concept, my understanding is that, we don't have to have parking minimums. The developers are the best ones to tell us how much they need for parking, which would have meant that Prime could have, as an example, said, well, we only need 50 spaces. I mean, we figured it out. That's enough. And be allowed to do that. Or a developer, now only in the central district right now, and I certainly wouldn't look at it for other residentials, but it talks about all other parking requirements adjusted to meet current minimum standards. I don't know what those are. And I don't know which one, are you saying that you can just pick some standard out of a textbook? We have some pretty relatively proven stuff. So that's one that concerned me. I'm trying to give you some stuff that concerns me, and then you can tell me what concerns you or what you don't understand. Historic site reviews and stuff. One of the things is they talk about creating a historic board. We can't even get members for the zoning and planning board enough. So how are you going to get members for volunteer members for another board? That's a question. There also seems to be a push to get us to give up the special use permits and let the planning board do special use permits. And I find that pretty scary because our role in special use permits is to deal with the 5 criteria, as we know that we experienced so greatly for a year and a half. So again, I want everybody to answer these, but I just wanted to talk about them a little bit so we understood how it might or might not affect us. I don't want to give up special use permits, and I don't think that the planning board is the best one to do it. Just like with the planned unit developments, we need to, and when it comes to planned unit developments, we don't get to talk about variances. They control all the variations. There has to be checks and balances. At this point, the city, for their stuff, wants to have us have no control, right? P4 got passed that law. So, I mean, I feel like there's a general push to try and strip power from boards so that eventually developers and city personnel can set their standard. I mean, that's what it smacks of to me, frankly, and it concerns me.
So Ron, I just want to say, I absolutely agree with you. And that was why I said I wanted to talk to you about this, because I found it to be alarming. And I feel, is this something that is done regularly? We've never been handed this before. And I feel like it's pretty interesting that it came on the heels of the downtown, project that we just voted on, that there are some people that were not happy with how that played out.
Right. Let me tell you something. We all had different opinions and we came to a consensus regarding prime. Right? I mean, in the end, any one of us could have said, no, I'm going to vote no and be a hero to PCC and the other people, or I'm going to do this or that. And we all had different feelings about what prime should or shouldn't do. But what I can tell you that we all agreed on was that we had to watch them and we had to have a say in that process. And that concerns me. And P4 passed, which means that now the city for any of their projects doesn't come to zoning or planning. And which I actually want to try and get repealed. But anyway, and there's imagine if we had not been involved in prime. Okay, first of all, it wouldn't have taken a year and a half, right? Because we're the ones who obviously stalled the whole thing.
Yeah, but remember the size of that building when they first approached us and all of the things that they adjusted for the betterment of the community.
And imagine if nobody was.
Can I just comment real quick here?
Yeah.
Just I'm not sure that I'm following Kelly's question exactly, but if the question is, well, what I can say is, yeah, the request for potential changes to the zoning ordinance as part of the comprehensive plan and stuff, that is a coincidence that it's happening right now after prime. I'm not sure that's what your question is, but they're going out, we're going over changing the master plan. So that's not something that happened because of prime.
Okay.
Right.
They've asked my office to submit, potential changes to the zoning ordinance that we've noticed were issues in over the years. Things that, wish list kind of stuff. It's not to say that they're going to get changed or that they are gonna seem like a good idea, but we're supposed to get them, they're supposed to be consolidated, and then, somebody's gonna do a more thorough, a deeper dive into them.
And I think that many of the things on this list are fine as it goes to comprehensive plans. But my concern is, as an example, if somebody starts talking about relaxing parking minimums, first of all, there are two other big things. Forget about Prime. There's Harborside, which is all down by the waterfront, and what they're going to do there. And if that becomes, I don't know what district it is now, but they could change it. They could deal with parking minimums there. And the other one is that they've made the compact between the city and the town to forget the lawsuit, and the city's getting a bunch of acreage. It's changing its borders, and there's a whole bunch of property up there that all of this affects, including the comprehensive plan. And I'm not saying stuff shouldn't be changed, but it just there seems to be this, like, let's simplify it and make it easier to develop, and we can increase density, and there doesn't need to be. Well, I don't want increased density. I mean, the reason Gabe Gerard's apartment was a use variance is because it's in an RH district where they're trying to control density and number of multifamily houses. They're not trying to screw him out of getting some kind of honest rent out of his building, but they don't want huge. And if you start changing those minimums, like parking minimums, or you start changing the way density works, all of a sudden you're going to find it's easy to say, oh, so what? So they have more people living there. Well, it's great unless you happen to live on Couch Street and they're slamming beer bottles at your porch, So, but a lot of this didn't bother me, but I think that there are parts that affect us that we need to look at when we answer this. That's all. And I didn't want to do it. I could have called everybody individually, but I think that it's smart to look at, these things. And like, I don't think it's smart to have this special use permits go to the planning board. I don't think they should be doing them. I think that we need to we're used to how we control stuff. They're used to site plans. Maybe that's not true anymore. Maybe we don't need any boards. Maybe the city community development can do the whole thing. I don't think that's going to happen, obviously. But at a certain point, some of these matter. There's only a few, like overlay districts. Yeah, you need those sign branding. The only thing is projected signs that they talk about. We've talked about downtown, but they create all kinds of insurance nightmares. And the off-street parking regulations update to current smart growth standards. Rear side only, additional landscaping, lighting. I don't know what that means. But again, our control with off-street parking is how we control density in a lot of ways. So I only look to control or help maintain our control over quality of life. I don't care how much power we have. I only have that we can be effective. I only care that we can be effective when we want to worry about quality of life and density and things like that. And
well, Ron, the other thing to keep in mind, they mentioned smart growth. And if you go and research what they talk about and what they reference places that have a robust public transit system.
Yeah.
And we don't, so we have cars.
Yeah.
And if you get more dense, you get more density of cars as well as people. And it's got to go somewhere.
Right. This actually has to do, Megan and I are on that same committee. We haven't met in a while. And this has to do with that also. Scott was on, but we couldn't have 3 zoning people on. And I think much of it's very good, but this concept of, oh, well, let's just do this because it's easier to, they look at it, how much can you foster development and how easy can you make that? And that does not always the answer to protecting quality of life. Listen, I mean, I just retired, but I've been a builder for all my life. I build stuff. I made my money because people built things and wanted stuff to changed and big changes in big buildings. And that's what I did. So I get that. But I did that within these frameworks, both in the city and in the town, especially, where you had to, there's still responsible growth. And And I get a little worried when all of a sudden somebody says, oh, it'd be so much quicker and simpler if we just had them one stop come to the planning board and they did everything, it's SUPs and PUDs and, and I'm worried about our thing. I also, for a separate reason, which I won't go into now, but I also feel like there's a sort of a disregard in some ways to everything that the boards have done over the last 20 or 30 years, and sort of a blaming of, well, not a lot happened, but we're going to show you how to get some real progress here now. We're taking over. You guys did okay, but nothing really happened, but we're going to show you how to make it happen. And there is a push to disregard things like parking minimums, to say, yeah, we don't need those anymore because this one says this or that one says that, this volume or this speaker or this author. And it concerns me when, not because I need gratitude because I've been doing this a long time, but there's something to be said for some experience of, when Gabe Gerard comes and you say, yeah, we got to think about this, but you can't get it no matter what because you don't pass this test. Some people would say, oh, we can get rid of that. You don't have to have that for use variances anymore, or whatever it is, So I think we just have to be careful that stuff doesn't get, it's like the Democrats and Republicans in Congress slipping stuff into these bills, to get what they want. So
what's the next step, Ron?
Well, the next step is that we should all send these independently to Joe to forward to Milena.
Okay. I'm gonna call you tomorrow after I get home from work.
Yeah.
And have a conversation, and then I'll send mine to you or to.
And anybody else can too. I just thought, first of all, by the way, it was supposed to be done in a few weeks, and I didn't do it. And I said, oh, here, I'll just make it that we have to have the meeting about it first. I mean, I'm being honest. But I also think that we should, in the next little bit, if people want to call me or each other or have questions about any one of the parts or don't understand what implications be, email me or call me, text me, it doesn't matter. Calling is fine though. And I think that we should set a goal that by the end of the week, we've answered, send it, or just take the spreadsheet and mark it up, add some comments on them and send them to Joe, and then Joe can forward them to Milena when he's got them all. Does that make sense? Is everybody okay with the end of the week?
Yeah, Joe, I'm gonna try to get it to you Wednesday.
What's that?
I'm gonna try to get it to Joe Wednesday.
Yeah.
I work from home on Wednesday. It'll be a good day for me to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna say good night.
Good night.
Wait.
Kelly, very much.
You're welcome. I don't need to vote on the minutes from the last one because I wasn't there, so I'm skipping.
Okay.
Night.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? Scott, did you check them?
I did read them over.
You did or did not?
I did.
Oh, and is there any problem with any of them?
I didn't see any issues.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion in regards to the minutes from the March 15th, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals, that we approve the minutes as written.
Seconded by Megan. All in favor? Aye. Okay, great. Second, does anybody have any other business?
Dinner.
If not, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Seconded by Ellie. All in favor? Aye. Done. See you guys later. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, Kyle, Joe, thank you. Bye-bye. I'm leaving.